Hey, what is up everybody? It's Lids, and today we are going to be playing some Gwent. There is a new seasonal event that just came out today, the +1 seasonal event. If you're interested in seeing what that one's all about, where we create a spawned copy of every unit that we play, then I've created a YouTube video in which I've been checking that stuff out, so you can see that there. Today on stream, however, what we're going to do is there's also a new expansion with a bunch of new cards in it, and I've not yet opened up any packs for that, and I have a lot of ore in which to do that. So, looking forward to getting the chance to take a closer look at some of those new cards. Also, gotta love that there's the new music as well. I don't know if the shop has new music or if this is the usual stuff. Sounds like this is the usual stuff, but at least on the main menu, it's new and very orchestral. So, let's look at the card kegs here. And so, I believe we will find that, yes, there is the new Way of the Witcher card keg. So this is the primary thing that we can open today that is available, starting today. And then there are, of course, the usual normal kegs and kegs of a specific faction. So I'm thinking we'll definitely do primarily the new kegs here and get a closer look at what the new cards are. And maybe with some of our remaining ore, we can get a few of these kegs as well. One thing to note, obviously, I will be opening a ton of kegs right now. I would just caution you to use self-control, and if you know that you yourself have an issue with that, do not feel as if you need to spend all of your money, you know, creating keg after keg and opening all those. In fact, for myself, I will not be spending a single real-life dollar for this. I will just be using in-game currency, all of our ore. So that is one way that I think is a good way to make sure that you're not putting your wallet at risk by opening up a bunch of packs here. Just want to say that at the beginning to make that clear. I have loaded up on a bunch of ore because I've basically not opened a single pack for the past several months, and I've been playing a lot of Gwent, so that is the way in which we'll be making these packs happen here. So no worries with regard to spending any real-life dollars on this stuff here. So if we do some quick math here to figure out just how many kegs we can open / pick up here, we have enough for 164 kegs, which is a ton. I think that it's going to take us a long time to open up that many, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to go through all of our ore today. I'm thinking instead, what we might do is say, open, I don't know, 50 of the kegs that are specific to this faction here, or specific to this expansion, I should say. And then after that, I think, with our remaining kegs, we might get some of the faction-specific kegs. That way, I think I've found that in the past, I did this for the most recent expansion where I had also saved up some ore. And I think that after opening, I want to say it was maybe as few as 25, maybe as many as 40 kegs for that. I found that I was definitely getting a ton of repeat cards at that point in time. Of course, the common ones and the rare ones, you'll find those in many packs, whereas the epics and the legendaries, those are much harder to get, and those are going to be the ones that even after opening several packs, we are probably still not going to get all of them, but that's going to be the thing that we'll be keeping a close eye on. So, I'm looking forward to checking it out, because, yeah, like I said, I've been saving up the ore and been waiting for the opportunity to finally get the chance to get some nice new kegs and some nice new cards. So, without further ado, let's make it happen here. And so, yeah, I think what we'll do here is we will get 50 of the new expansion kegs, and then we'll take it from there, basically. I do also have 23 kegs here, as you can see, that I've unopened. Those are basically all from quest rewards and logging in every day and things of that sort, so those are all going to be either neutral kegs, or the generic kegs, I should say, or the ultimate kegs on a few occasions there. Those are things that you can get from the reward book. So still all from just in-game stuff, no real money spent here for any of these things, but let's begin with these kegs here and let's get started. However, one thing I'm thinking about is, do we perhaps want to keep track of how many legendary cards we get? Maybe epics? I don't know. As we're going through these 50 kegs, I feel like that could be interesting to see just how many we end up with. What if, say, I were to just throw on a little counter here, and we can keep track of it that way? That might be fun. Let's give that a shot. I think that'd be kind of interesting. And of course, we'll start out at 0. Okay, so let's try that. See what we end up with here. So, I don't know what the actual rate is for getting legendary cards. If it's, I don't know, I'd have to imagine it's more than 1%, in which case we'd be hoping for, or at least more than 2%, in which case we'd be hoping for at least 1 card. Could be a lot more than that, though, I think. So yeah, as you see here, these are the kegs that I've gotten just from the various reward book rewards and just logging in every day. These are the ones we just purchased. So let's get these here. And by purchase, I mean use in-game currency. Let's try it out. Okay, so I think what we're going to do here is we'll talk a little bit about cards the first time we see them show up. But then once we start getting to the repeats, then we'll just sort of zoom through, because otherwise this will take us a very long time. So, hybrid. Whenever you consume 1 or more units, boost self by 1. Does sound like that could be a nice card for monsters if you're using a very consume-heavy deck. Witcher Adept. Damage self by 4. At the end of the turn, heal self by 1. When not damaged, gain 1 armor instead. Interesting. So it damages itself, and there are a few ways in which Skellige certainly does benefit from that. And then eventually it does heal itself all the way back up to a 7 strength card, and that's pretty strong for 4 provisions. That's very good. Just take some patience. Target practice for Northern Realms. Boost an allied unit by 4. There's a Witcher on the boosted unit's row. Also spawn a Witcher student on that row. Witcher student is just 2 strength. Okay. Alright, another 4 provision cost, so going to be pretty cheap option there. And then we have Witcher, damage self by 3. Seems like that's going to be the theme here. Oh, and I should say, so this is obviously the Way of the Witcher expansion. And so the general theme here is there's going to be a ton of Witchers. Some that are going to be neutral, you could put them in any deck. That has typically been the case for Witchers in the past. But this time around, I think we're going to see a lot more of the faction-specific Witchers, and that's already what we're seeing here. Witchers apparently being from Skellige. So damage self by 3, adrenaline 4, and that is a new effect that is new to this expansion, adrenaline. So trigger this ability if you have the specified amount of cards or less in your hand. Basically what that means is it needs to be pretty late on in a round when you only have 4 cards or fewer remaining. And then damage self and an enemy unit by 3 instead. Otherwise it's just damaging this unit here, but that would be, even after the damage, 5 strength for 5 provision costs. You are able to damage the opposing unit. I think you do get to pick which one you'd be using that on. Then it'd be on net, 8 strength, 5 from this, and then 3 damage you're dealing for 5 provision costs. That's pretty solid. Let me see what we get here. Buka, Veil, and Thrive. Okay, units played by your opponent trigger this unit's Thrive ability. What? Your opponent can trigger your Thrive? That's crazy. That's really interesting. I mean, it is 4 strength, so that does mean that it's going to be a little bit hard to trigger the first few rounds, or well, first few rounds of Thrive, not so hard, but later on that starts to get a little bit more challenging. A lot of the Thrive units start off with pretty low strength. This is somewhat high to start off with for a Thrive unit. Then Witcher Quartermaster. I mean, well, we have to pick one of these, of course. We don't get all of them. Damage an allied unit by 1, then spawn a Witcher student on this row. We saw what Witcher students were. Again, the self-damage with the Skellige units. Or Cat Witcher Mentor. So it seems like Bear is Skellige. Cat is, it would seem, Scoia'tel. Boost self by the number of cards in this row. Adrenaline 4. So again, need to have 4 cards or fewer in your hand. Whenever a card appears in this row, boost self by 1. But starts off with just 1 strength. Wow. So what, you play it... I was gonna say you play it early, and then you play future cards in order to boost self that way, but no, this only triggers when you're at 4 adrenaline, and you do still have the deploy, making you stronger if you play that... Play that late? Yeah, I don't know. This intrigues me. I feel like we go with this one just because I think it's the most interesting. But that's just a rare card, so I think we'll see plenty of those. Okay, still just more rares here, and of course, common cards. Stolen mutagens. Pick a mutagen. Red, damage an enemy unit by 4. Blue, poison an allied unit and gain 5 coins. Or green, boost an allied unit by 4 and give it Veil. Control at least 3 Salamander units, profit 3. That's interesting. Lots of flexibility there. Then, okay, more for Syndicate. Salamander Lackey. At the end of your turn, if you gained at least 1 coin this turn, boost self by 1. Okay. Theoretically, you could get that boosting a fair bit if you play that pretty early on. And that is one thing that I've always thought was a little bit strange. Just Salamander, at least in Witcher 1, the game, is just so humongous. And yet there haven't been many cards for it, so it's kind of strange in that sense, but glad to see there's a lot more here. Target practice, already gotten one of those. Then Cat Witcher Saboteur, move an enemy unit to the leftmost position on its row, damage it by 1 for every card it passed. Oh! So I think that's one of the things that I heard people saying was that there's going to be a lot of emphasis on movement. Moving your own cards, moving opposing cards in this expansion, and I think that's primarily going to be Scoia'tel that's doing that because that is primarily the Scoia'tel thing. So yeah, that's definitely something you can do to great effect there. More rare cards. Salamander Abomination. Contribute 1 poison self. Whenever this unit is poisoned, boost self by 2. So that is another thing that's new for Syndicate is self-poison is going to be a new emphasis. And you say, well, if you poison yourself twice, then you lose the card, right? Why would you ever want to do that? Well, if you can apply Veil, then that means that the poison actually doesn't poison you. And you can still get the additional boost happening from this. Adrenaline 4, and at the end of your turn, purify self, or you could do that to purify away one of the poisons. So that's intriguing. Viper Witcher Mentor, so yeah, it seems like Viper is probably going to be for Nilfgaard, and that makes sense. There already are Viper cards for Nilfgaard. Set power of this card to match provision cost of the top card in your opponent's deck. Oh, that's a strange one. Adrenaline 2, set power of this card to match provision cost of the highest cost card in opponent's deck instead. Wow. Okay. So if you play this really late on, when you only have 2 or fewer cards in your hand, then that means that it will take on what would likely be, what's the highest provision cost you'd normally see in a deck? At least 10, probably higher than that. Fairly safe to say it'd probably be 11, could be as high as 12 or even higher than that is possible. So that's an interesting one for sure. Griffin Witcher, okay, so this will be Northern Realms for Griffin School, it would seem. Damage enemy unit by 1, cooldown 1. Whoa. That's a lot of damage, pretty frequently at that. Adrenaline 3, at the end of your turn, damage a random enemy unit by 3 and lock self. Ah, okay, so it's quicker. You do the damage in one big chunk, and then you no longer get the chance to deal the damage every turn if you play it with just 3 adrenaline. I think all these are very interesting. But since they're rare, I think we'll see more of them. Okay, still just rares here and commons. Viper Witcher Adept. At the end of your turn, boost self by 1 if opponent has more cards in the deck than you. Okay, that is one thing that Nilfgaard does a lot of, is playing a bazillion cards, and so I think that's pretty safe bet that you're going to have fewer cards in your deck than your opponent. It does require a little bit of setup to make that happen, and if you're going Nilfgaard versus Nilfgaard, then maybe a little less likely. Oh, and especially Nilfgaard has the Viper School Witcher, or at least I think that one got renamed. The one that used to, or that already existed before this expansion, that would banish 1 card in your opponent's deck. That would reduce the amount of cards in their deck, so you probably don't want to be playing that with this, which is a little strange because they are both, or at least were, both from Viper School. Okay, Viper Witcher, well, this is the new Viper Witcher, or at least the one that now has this name. The old one, like I said, I think has gotten renamed. Give Bleeding 2 to an enemy unit, okay. Adrenaline 6, that's not too difficult to get. Spawn a copy of that unit at the top of the opponent's deck. So you can deliberately fill your opponent's deck with some not-so-great cards if you are making a point of bleeding one of their worst cards. And that might be a good synergy with Witcher Adept, making sure that you have fewer cards in your deck than your opponent. Okay. Spontaneous Evolution, oh dear. Boost an allied unit by 4 and gain an additional effect based on unit's category. Huh? Insectoid. Spawn 3 droids, or drones rather, on boosted units row. Okay, so you create a bunch of drones for insects. That is usually something that you're looking to do for insects. Beast boosts that unit by 8 instead, so getting one big monster. In the case of Beast, or Ogroid, give all Ogroids in your hand +2 armor. I feel like the Ogroid one might be the weakest there. I'm not sure. Are there that many armor synergies with monsters? Maybe I'm just not thinking of them. At Witcher Adept, give an enemy unit bleeding with duration equal to the number of units on that unit's row. Okay, so you probably want to play this pretty late on so that there are a bunch of units there. And then you get a lot of bleeding, but then you don't have a lot of time for the bleeding to take effect, so that's an unusual one. I feel like that's going to be kind of hard to make that work. Valid unit vitality with duration equal to the number of units on that unit's row. Okay, so you can do vitality for yourself or bleed for your opponent. Then for this one, we can have Cat Witcher at the end of your turn, move self to the other row and damage an enemy on the opposite row by 1. And if you can find other ways to move this around, like with your leader ability, there is one that allows you to move, then does that also work? Or is it only when it uses its own ability to move itself? Krellin 4, do a little more damage. Okay. Viper Witcher Alchemist. Look at top 3 cards of your deck and put one on the top, then swap top card of your opponent's deck with you. What? So basically, put one of your cards on the top of your opponent's deck and take one of your opponent's cards? That could be an interesting setup for Assimilate for Nilfgaard. Huh. That's intriguing. And Griffin Witcher Ranger, boost self by 1 for every unit on the opposite row. Transfer, or with the order, transfer all boosts from self to an allied unit. Oh! Huh. I wonder if that is technically... If the transfer is, say that the Griffin Witcher Ranger gets boosted from a 2 up to a 5, does that mean that you boost the unit that you're passing over the boost to by 1 3 times? Or is it one big boost of 3? Because that does potentially affect units like Trident Infantry is what I'm thinking of. Wondering if you could deliberately apply a bunch of boosts, a bunch of small boosts, Trident Infantry with this. Either way, I think, once again, with these being rare cards, it's pretty likely that we're going to see more of them, so not too concerned about picking a specific one. And we've certainly seen a lot of target practice. Loaded Weapons is new. Damage an enemy unit by 5. And if we can take it out with that, then we banish it and spawn a copy of it on top of the opponent's deck. Okay, so it does seem like that's becoming one of the themes, or at least is apparently one of the themes for Viper School stuff, or, I mean, I'm assuming this is kind of Viper School themed, is that you are deliberately filling your opponent's deck with bad cards, which is, yeah, that's not something we've seen much of. There was one Nilfgaard card that I can think of that did that. I'm blanking out on her name, but the spy from Witcher 2 spoilers, but the person from The Witcher 2, Cynthia, created a 4 strength unit with no abilities that you put at the top of your opponent's deck when you played her, which was kind of unremarkable. Used it for a little while, but wasn't terribly impressed. Bear Witcher Mentor, boost self by 1 for every damaged ally unit. And we were seeing there's tons of self-damage for the Bear School Witcher thing, so yeah, it seems like that could certainly work with more of them. Boost self by 1 for every damage unit instead, if you have Adrenaline 3. That would mean that it counts both your own damage units and your opponent's damage units if you play this late on. That could certainly work. Armor Up, damage an enemy unit by 2, spawn 3 Witcher students on the opposite row, damage them by 1, and give them 1 armor. Okay, there's a good example of a time when you can get a bunch of damage units on your side if you want to set something up like the Bear Witcher Mentor. Then for this one here, we did take one of these before, so we probably won't take you. Cat Witcher, we have seen you. We just didn't opt to take you. Succubus is new. Death Wish, new to us at least. Obviously, all these are new in general. At the end of your turn, summon a different copy of Succubus from your graveyard. Wait, what? Summon a different copy of Succubus from your graveyard to a random row and give it Doomed? Adrenaline 3. Don't give it Doomed. It's a way of... Huh. It's a way of getting a card from your graveyard back onto the playing field. You just want to deliberately sacrifice this card for things like your Death Wish, or well, probably going to have this card out here and then consume it, and then it's going to come back in. And normally that would come back with Doomed, but if you do it late enough in a round, then it can come back and not have Doomed, in which case you could repeat it again. So there could be some very interesting synergies there. You can find ways to very quickly get those consumes happening when you have only a few cards left. Let's take this, because we hadn't seen it yet. Then still just rares, though we're getting an extra one here. Viper Witcher Adept, okay. Seen that already. Seen Armor Up. These ones here, seen Succubus, we just took that. Seen Viper Witcher Mentor. Then here, we have seen all these before, but we've not yet taken Salamander Abomination, so let's go with that. It does look pretty scary, intimidating. I don't really know what to call that. It's just kind of a odd amalgamation of things. Okay, so here's our first epic. So that's a good sign. More Fuka. More Armor Up. So yeah, I do think for the common cards, we're likely going to get a bunch of those and go way over our normal 2-card limit that we'd be able to put in a deck. And Target Practice will perhaps be the one that puts that theory to the test here. We get to choose between these epic cards. Let's take a close look here. Colgrim is for Nilfgaard. Adrenaline 2. At the end of your turn, boost self by the difference between number of cards in players' decks. Okay, so it does seem like this is a card that is very similar to other Witcher School cards that we were looking at earlier, where you deliberately want to add a bunch of bad cards in your opponent's deck, make it so that your opponent has way more cards than you do. And if you've done that, that means that Colgrim is going to, if you play him very late on, boost himself by that number, that difference between the number of cards between your opponent and yourself. So I would think that it could be a very good card in that specific circumstance, but it definitely needs to be in that type of deck. It's not going to be something you just throw in a pretty generic deck and works. It's going to have to be pretty specialized for it. This is a neutral card. That might be one of the first neutral cards we've seen thus far. Let's take a look. Maxi Van Decker. Look at your deck in order from top to bottom. What? You may shuffle your deck, then put a card on the bottom of it. You may shuffle your deck. So does that mean basically you get to see, here's the order of all your cards. If you want to, if you like what you see, you can keep it as is. If you don't like what you see, you can reshuffle it and guarantee that your worst card stays on the bottom, or if there's a specific card that you want to make sure stays in your deck so that you can play it from your deck, then you can make sure that it stays down there. That's interesting. Then we have Cohen. Zeal Order. Boosts all other units with power equal to Cohen's power by the amount Cohen is boosted. Oh, wow. Wow. That's really intriguing. So, I'll be honest, I do tend to favor Northern Realms because, well, that is the deck or the faction that I usually use. So, in that sense, I could certainly see myself using this probably more so than any of these other cards, but also I think that is pretty amazing. If you can find a way to boost Cohen a lot, and then also boost other units a lot, then you can use this ability here and just do some crazy stuff. So I think the potential here is humongous. Worst comes to worst, and it's going to do just about nothing for you. If he's not boosted, then it will quite literally do nothing. But best case scenario, this could be absurd how powerful this is. So I definitely want to try taking that. And it's also animated, whereas the other ones I think were not. So another reason to take that one. So that's epic. I was wondering if maybe we wanted to keep track of the epic cards, or if we do just legendary. Let's keep it with just legendary for now. Of course, we haven't gotten any yet. More stolen mutagens, more succubi, more hybrids, more salamander lackeys. And okay, we have seen all these before. Yes, we just have not necessarily taken either Griffin Witcher or Bear Witcher Quartermaster, but this one's animated, so let's definitely take this one. That's a good tiebreaker. What's up, bro dear? What's up, Arumi? Yeah, I think that I can imagine Colgrim. Also, if you do make a point of playing a bunch of the Viper School cards, you could probably make it really powerful. It's just, I myself, I don't know. I see the Cohen card fitting in a lot more with the Northern Realms type of decks that I tend to run. So that's sort of my personal bias, definitely showing which one I would be more likely to use, I think. But not to say that Colgrim would be a bad card. I think, like you're saying, if you build around it, then you could make a pretty awesome card out of it. This is new, making a what? Move an enemy unit to the other row, give it bleeding 4, it's the only unit in that row, damage it by 4 instead. So you get to move it, you may deal damage, which would be nice, or bleeds be a little bit worse, but I don't know. I guess, well, it is for Scoia'tel, so Scoia'tel is getting a bunch of bonuses from being able to move things, so maybe with that in mind, that could be useful, but at least first glance, I was thinking that's not going to be a very good card. It's only 4 provision, so I suppose it's easy to throw into a deck. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to take a close look at my Northern Realms decks and see if there's a way that I can squeeze it in there, but 7 provision cost, I think, is what it was, so that seems pretty reasonable. I thought it was 7, and then Colgrim was more than that. I think Colgrim was, what, like 9? Is pretty expensive for an epic card. Okay, so we have taken both of these before, and we haven't taken Witcher's or Griffin Witcher Mentor, and it's animated, so we definitely take this one here. Let's see, other stuff here. Nothing crazy out of this one, except this is new to us. Griffin Witcher Adept. Seems like basically every school is affiliated with a specific faction, and then it has its Adept, it has its Mentor, and then it has just other, maybe a few other versions of the same, or of that type of card. So for Griffin Adept, we're getting Shield, transform an ally Witcher into a base copy of Griffin Witcher Adept. What? Oh, you know what you do with this? What you do is, there were some other cards that create token Witchers that just had 2 strength and aren't very special. So I think you use this order to transform those token Witchers into this here, and then you can continue that process, and it's almost like a Kidweni Revenant. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. I wonder if this will be as powerful as Kidweni Revenants. It only costs 4 provision costs, I thought. Isn't Kidweni Revenant 5? Kidweni Revenant obviously comes along with damage as well. And although is that, Kidweni Revenant might only be 3 strength, so I don't know, I'd be interested to compare these. Okay, we've seen Cat Witcher Saboteur before, as well as that one, and that one. Okay, but we have seen both of these, we just haven't taken either of them yet. Neither one is animated, so I don't think we have any easy tiebreakers, so we'll just take one of them. Yeah, I was thinking that this Adept does seem like it could be very, very good if you can build around it. I could definitely see that happening. And, well, there we get another one of it, so that's good. Go to weapons, we've seen that before. There's our second one of that. Target practice does really seem like it's going to be the card that we just get a bazillion of. This is new, Chimera, or at least new to us. Let's see. So it's a beast mutant. It consumes an allied unit. Okay, so I think we saw that there were some other new monster cards that are maybe not the consumers, but the ones that are good for getting consumed. I think Succubus was one of those. Adrenaline 4. Boost all copies of consumed unit in that unit's row by one. Wait, what? Oh! Boost all copies of consumed unit in that unit's row by 1. So basically you consume a unit, and then if you have more of that type of unit in that row, then they all get boosted. So good for if you have things like tokens that you have a bazillion of, although those are usually probably pretty weak. And, well, I suppose it doesn't really matter how strong the unit is. If you just have a high quantity of them, then you're doing a lot of boosting there. Or you do something like the Kikimor, what is it, Workers? The ones that are basically the monster version of Kidweni Revenants. Those are another type of card that you can make a lot of. Oh, that's another thing you can do with the Adepts, is there are some interesting shield synergies. I haven't really used them much, but there's that one card that basically steals all the shields and gets boosted by the total number of shields, right? That could definitely be a good synergy with the Adepts. Okay, so let's see here. We definitely have enough Fukas, at least compared to these two. We passed on Witcher, or Bear Witcher Quartermaster on a few occasions, but this is new to us. Haven't seen Salamander Mage yet. Let's check this out. Tribute 4, damage 3 adjacent enemy units by 2. That's a lot of damage. Adrenaline 5, whenever you pay a tribute ability, gain 1 coin. Huh. Spend coins to gain coins. I mean, you're just gaining 1 coin, so you're probably still gonna end up losing on net there, but it does help mitigate the cost a bit here. We haven't seen this one yet, so I know we keep on passing on Bear Witcher, but I feel like let's go for this one. Okay, next pack. And nothing crazy here, doesn't seem. We've seen plenty of armor up. Seen all these before, as well as Bear Witcher Mentor. And for this one here, well, maybe this is our opportunity to finally take Bear Witcher Quartermaster. Let's do that. We have a copy of the other ones already. Let's see, for other stuff, plenty of armor up. That might be trying to catch up to, what is it, Target Practice, the one for Northern Realms that we have a bazillion of. Okay, Viper Witcher, we have one of those. Yeah, this is that card. Was this one of the cards? Yeah, that could be a good setup for Colgrim. Putting potentially a very weak unit into your opponent's deck. Make it so that your opponent has way more cards than you do. Hybrid we've seen before. Then, okay, we have taken all these cards, but we have 2 of both of these guys, only one of the Chimera, so let's take Chimera here. Oh, okay, let's see. For this one, still just a couple rares, nothing too crazy here. Unlikely to see too much that's new to us. And, okay, oh, this one's animated, okay. I was going to say we only have one of both of these, so it'd probably be between the two of them, but this one's animated, so let's take this. Yeah, that is the thing about Nilfgaard, is you are playing one of those crazy Nilfgaard decks, then you can't be sleeping, because it does take some brain power to make them work. But if you can pull them off, there are some pretty crazy things you can do with them. There's Target Practice, okay, so I think it is passing armor up, or at least I think it's just maintaining its lead here, in terms of the card that we've drawn the most. Then Fuka, we have plenty of that. Okay, and okay, so this is a little bit unfortunate here, because we already have 2 Chimeras, but this is an animated Chimera, so it'd be nice to pick this up. And the reason why we might not do it is because we do not yet have a failed experiment. This looks a little bit scary. At the end of your turn, lose one coin. If you have no coins, damage yourself by 1 instead. What? While poisoned, disable this ability. Oh, disable this ability. I was going to say, why would you ever play this card if you're losing coins and damaging yourself? Because it has 9 strength? Because it's really strong? Okay. So you want to poison it so that it doesn't do this losing coins or damaging self thing. And if you can do that, then it has a lot of strength, I should say. And that is, yeah, that's certainly playing into the whole poison self thing, but that could be very interesting. I am still tempted to go with Chimera here. I mean, this is still just a rarity card, so I'd have to imagine we're probably going to draw another one of these later on. Let's go for the animated version of this card, and we'll make a point if we see that we have more choices in which we can choose Failed Experiment, and we'll go for that on that occasion then. Okay. Next go round, still mostly just rares here. Armor up. That's actually only our second Bear Witcher Adept, okay. There's a Griffin Witcher Adept, like we were saying before, could be quite good. There's our second Viper Witcher Alchemist, so getting to 2 is really the key number we want to get to, because that means that if we want to, we can put 2 copies of that card in our deck. Of course, then again, that's for common cards, and for rare cards, for the epic and legendary cards, you can only put 1 of those in, so don't need to get multiple of those. And, well, perhaps this is exactly the scenario we were saying we were waiting for. Here is Failed Experiment. No other animated cards that might take our attention away from it, so let's take Failed Experiment here. Okay, and oh, here's an epic. Okay, let's save that one. Let's start with the little things first. Things that we've already seen is likely going to be the case, like Target Practice. And now for the epic. We get Baton. Move the other cards from this row to the other row. Damage a random enemy unit for each card moved by 1. Okay, so again, very much emphasizing the movement for Scoia'tel Witchers. So that could be very interesting. I could definitely see that working and doing a lot of damage. And there are even some Scoia'tel cards that get boosted when you move them, so combine those two things together and it could work very well. Yeah, we have at least 2 of every card here except for the Bear Witcher Quartermaster, so let's go with that. No animated cards here, so we'll just take the one we have fewer of. Then here, okay, more just normals and rares. Nothing crazy yet. Oh, this is actually our first Cat Witcher we've seen. At the end of your turn, or maybe we saw this and just didn't opt to take it. I think we've seen this before. At the end of your turn, move self to the other row and damage a random enemy on the opposite row by 1. Yeah, I think we have seen that, but this is the first time we've actually opted to take it. Okay, and this time we have all these cards. None of them are animated, so there's not really any choice to be... Well, it doesn't matter which one we take here. It doesn't matter. We already have the threshold that we're looking to get to. Then more normals and rares. Oh, we did get one of the target practices to be animated. I guess it probably was the previous one. I was going to say, with as many as we were taking, I would have thought that eventually we would get an animated one. I was surprised that we hadn't yet, but good to see that we did. It seems as though the animation maybe is rather minor, and therefore I just missed it, or maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention and saw it was target practice and immediately looked away. Cat Witcher, well, we just got one last time around, but there's our second one right there. Then this time, again, all cards we've seen and none that are animated, so just take your pick. Then here, okay, more normals and rares. Nothing too special. See if there's anything that's new to us. Yes. Oh, and animated as well. Griffin Witcher Ranger. I think we did see this when we had it in the middle option, and so we had the option to choose it or any of the other cards, and we opted to go for a different card. But this one is animated, so that's good, and it is our first. Boost self by 1 for every unit on the opposite row. Transfer all boosts from self to an allied unit. Yeah. Oh, this was one that I was saying that could work very well with, let's say, a Trident Infantry, depending on how exactly that transfer of boosts work. Okay. And then, oh, is this the one that we just... No, that's a different Griffin School Witcher. Okay, so we only have one of these, yes, but this is animated. I think we go for the animated one, because I'd have to imagine we probably will find another one of these at some point. It's just rare rarity, so it's not that uncommon, whereas the animation is pretty rare. Okay, and here's not only an epic in the middle, so we'll have 3 cards to choose from, so that's very nice. Oh, in fact, there's 2 epics, okay, so I think this has already become our best pack yet. Coded weapons, seen plenty of that. Hybrid, okay. First epic, this one we don't get to choose between. It's Were-Rat. I do remember, I think I saw the preview of this card, and it is rather silly, because there is the Year of the Were-Rat is one of the groups of rewards that you can get from completing various things in game, and I think a lot of people were assuming that the Were-Rat was going to be this little tiny rat that just so happens to be a Were-Rat, not this humongous hulking monster. So order is reset this unit's power and spawn a number of rats in this row equal to the amount of boost it lost. So basically you want to boost this guy like crazy, and then if you do that, use your order, then you can spawn some rats. And oh, it has cooldown once, so you can use this basically every turn if you want to. So you don't necessarily need to be doing it in one big boost or do a bunch of boosts and then use the order once. You could basically just do a little bit boosting at a time and then use the order every turn. At the end of your turn, consume the unit to the right. Oh, okay. I see. So basically, you boost it, use the order creates something that it can then consume. It can consume that on the next turn, because, it consumes that because that's its ability. Then on the next turn, you use the order again because the cooldown has worn off, so you can shed the boost and spawn more units. So it's basically, it is its own engine in some ways. I think it still would be most efficient if you could make a point of finding other ways to boost it, but it is very interesting. Okay, so now we have options here for this epic, and we do see Colgrim again. Yeah, it does have 9 for its provision cost. What is this? Eater. Adrenaline 3. Consume all tokens on this row and gain immunity. Whenever you consume 1 or more units, spawn a drone in this row. Okay, so basically, you play it early, and then you consume units, not this one directly, you consume other units as you're going about in the round, and then late on in the round, once you have 3 cards or fewer, you use the order and give this card immunity, and it will consume all the other drones or whatever tokens you have in the row and become very powerful, and you won't be able to, say, have your opponent use Geralt of Rivia to destroy it. So that's interesting. Not quite sure how powerful that will be, because it is still just consuming, and it's not doing much to generate its own power. Or, well, it's not doing much to generate more power than you would otherwise have just from creating the drones to begin with and consuming those drones. You could do that with this card, you could do that with any other card. The real thing that's unique about it is the immunity part. It's more so just that it's hard to take this card out. It can get strong, and it can be hard to take it out. And this is also new to us, Berengar. I recognize that name for The Witcher 1. Let's see, at the end of your turn, destroy this card if it's the only Witcher on the row. And it has 9 strength. So you basically, 9 strength for 6 provision costs. That's pretty cheap. So the whole point is just you want to make sure that you have a bunch of Witchers, otherwise he's gonna get destroyed. So, I don't know, it is neutral, so you can play it anywhere. Still feel like, of all these cards, Colgrim, I think, has far and away the best upside. Like, this is just a really safe card. As long as you have a significant amount of Witchers, then it's 9 strength for 6 provision costs, and it doesn't really have any special abilities that make it any stronger than that. So I think Colgrim is the most interesting. Let's go for that. Of course, we've seen him once already, but that's not necessarily to suggest that he's any more common than the other epic rarity cards. Let's see what other stuff we have then. Plenty of you. So again, I'm just going to skip through the cards that we've already seen on several occasions. Not going to spend much time talking about them. That is our second Griffin Witcher Ranger, though, so that's good. Then here, we still need one more of the Bear Witchers. Let's take you. We have seen all of them before already, though. Nothing crazy to analyze there. This go round, more just normals and rare cards, so likely to see cards that, yeah, we have plenty of already. Keep an eye out for any animations here, but okay, so we only have one of the Griffin Witcher Mentors and only one of the Cat Witcher Mentors. So, Griffin School, Cat School, we don't have any animated cards to be a tiebreaker here. I think for that reason, generally speaking, I'm more of a Northern Realms player than I am a Scoia'tel player, so I'm going to use that as a tiebreaker on this occasion. But those are still just rare cards, so fairly likely we'll see more of them. Let's see what we get here. More normal and rare. So likely to see more things that we already have. And well, there you go. There's a second Cat Witcher Mentor for us. That worked out well. And then these are all cards that we have plenty of already, and none of them are animated, so it doesn't really matter which one we take here. Let's see what we get this time. Still just normal and rare. So nothing too out of the ordinary, although that is our second failed experiment. We did need one more of those, so that's good. Then this time, no animated cards. We already have at least 2 of all these. I suppose we have slightly fewer of the Cat Witcher Mentor, so we'll take one of those. Not that it makes much of a difference here. Basically, we just want to make sure that for the normal and rare cards, we're getting at least 2. That way we can use as many as we want in our deck, or as many as we can actually use in the deck. Target Practice remains the card that we've taken the most, I think, although some other ones are beginning to catch up a bit. Okay, more rare cards that we have all of. We might be getting close to the point now where we have 2 of all of the rare cards. I think we are probably already there for the common cards. So we have 3 Succubi, mostly just Failed Experiment and Viper Witcher Mentor. We'll just take one of the other ones that we have slightly fewer of. And here, more normal and rare, ones we have seen already. I suppose we only had a couple or Griffin Witcher Mentor, so not a bad thing to get another of those. And no animated cards here, so we'll just take the one that we have the fewest of. Let's go with Viper Witcher. Okay, and we have 24 of these packs left, so that means that we are slightly more than halfway through. For reference, yeah, I think Viper Witcher Adept is creeping up on target practice as becoming the card that we are drawing the most. And then again, we'll just take the card that we have the fewest of here, but we've already seen all those, so not a big deal. Alright, let's see. Then, more normals, and yes, Viper Witcher Adept. And Cat Witcher Adept. Oh, that's actually a fair ways up there as well. And, okay, we've actually only seen one Salamander Mage thus far, so let's take a second one here. Not like we have any animated cards to distract us from taking that. And yeah, so we're doing 50 barrels for the expansion. I technically do have more ore, a lot more ore, so we could do even more, but I'm assuming that this will take us a little while, so that's partially why I'm taking it a little cautiously here, just to see how many we can realistically get done in one sitting. Okay, Cat Witcher Adept and Viper Witcher Adept, okay, are now both up to 11 total, so that might be surpassing target practice now. Still no animated cards here, so it doesn't really matter which one we take. We've seen them all, we have enough of them all already. And still just normals and rares. Yeah, I'm thinking Viper Witcher Adept is probably now the card that we have the most of. Still no animations, so we'll still, I mean, we have the same number of all these, so it doesn't really matter which one we take. And this is what I've generally found. Another reason why I didn't necessarily want to go and purchase all, or I say purchase, but use ore for 100% the expansion packs is because I think we'll find that after a certain amount of time, we will get to the point where we've gotten all the normals, all the rare cards in this specific expansion, and then it's mostly just a question of the epics and legendaries. And in that case, would you like to continue to draw from that from this expansion, or would you just rather say go for a more generic type of pack that can give you any sort of cards? Because I kind of feel like it is better to say go with other packs than ones that are, say, like for the specific faction. That way you can get epics, you can still get legendaries, it's just that you're drawing from a larger pool, and therefore you might find other cards that you don't yet have. So on this occasion, doesn't really matter which one we take. None of them are animated, so just keep on moving there. And that way, yeah, when you're drawing from a much larger pool, you're less likely to get a bunch of repeats here. One benefit of doing that is that when we do go to our deck screen, our deck creation screen, I think we will find that we're going to get a bunch of scraps after doing this, because we're going to have a bunch of repeated cards. Let's go with Viper Witcher Alchemist here, because we have the fewest of those. Okay. Still normals and rares here. Been a little while since we last picked up... Oh, that was an animated card. That's good. But it's been a little while since we got anything from a higher rarity. And these are all cards we have a bunch of, so nothing special there. Let's see, this time, no, still just normals and rares. Viper Witcher Adept, now I believe that'll be 14. Okay, so that's an animated version of Failed Experiment, so that's good. A little bit better. And then nothing animated here, so we'll just take your pick. I think that's the one we have the fewest of. That might have been animated ever so slightly. I don't know, if it was, it's very minor, the animation. Okay. Griffin Witcher Ranger. Then choice here between, again, cards that we have, and none of them are animated, so just take one of them. Doesn't really matter. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting epic, and we will be able to choose from 3. So that's what we're hoping for. Let's see what else we get here. Likely to be things we've already seen. That it is, but this is the key part. So we did see you earlier and opted not to take you. Seemed like basically it's a card that helps you make sure that you are not so much drawing the specific card that you want as much as it's not drawing the card that you really don't want to draw, which sometimes is just as relevant, if not more. Otherwise, we can have Lionheim. That name sounds so familiar from Witcher 1. Profit 2, B1, poison an allied unit, and boost it by 2. So this is one of the self-poisoning cards, and I would think possibly even one of the best ways to make it happen. That's a pretty reliable way of poisoning your own units. That's tempting. Then Gerd, we've not yet seen you. Let's see. Your Skellige. Spawn a Deafening Siren on the opposite row and damage all units on that row by 1. Oh, so it's very similar to the Skellige leader ability with the Patricide. Patricide is a stronger card, but also spawns, 2 Deafening Sirens on the opposite row? And damages just those Sirens, actually, I think. Doesn't damage everything on that row. So this is similar and, in some circumstances, actually can be slightly better. Adrenaline 4, spawn a Deafening Siren on the opposite row and damage it by 1 instead. That would be if you wanted to just get the Deafening Siren. Oh, no, I know what this is. You actually don't want to have that Adrenaline 4 trigger. Basically, it is a risk-reward payout type of thing where you want to wait for later in the round until your opponent has a lot of units in the opposite side, so that way you're dealing more damage when you're damaging everyone on the opposite row. It's just the Adrenaline 4 is a way of making it so that you can't wait forever and make this the last card you play and damage absolutely everything on the have a full row to damage on the opposite side. So I still think that is quite good. I think both of these are very good. So they're both tempting. I think I don't think I've ever actually played a single game as the Syndicate. So for that reason, I would probably lean toward Gerd, although I think that both of them are very good. Maybe even slightly better for Blindheim, but let's go with Gerd. And if we do see Blindheim show up again, then definitely we'll strongly consider taking him. That's another set of epic cards, and we've had a few of those already. So that's good, but no legendaries yet. Definitely still waiting on that, and that will be, one would hope, the big get. And I would have thought, given how many cards, or how many packs we're opening here, that we'd have a reasonable chance of making it happen. Of course, each deck has its own independent probability. Okay, well, okay. This one is animated. So we have all these cards here. I think we just take the animated one. And then here, okay, we got an extra rare card, which is probably not going to be a card that we are missing at this stage, but at the very least is something that we can mill for a little bit more of the scraps. Then I think here we just take the card that we have the least of. Then more normals and rares, and yes, can confirm the Viper Witcher Novice has definitely surpassed Target Practice as the card that we've drawn the most of. And then this is animated, and neither of these are, so let's go for this then. We have them all, so just go for the animation. That certainly is a good tiebreaker. Okay, here's an epic. We don't have the chance to choose between 3. We just take whatever we have here, but we'll see what we get. Of course, we hope it's not one that we've already opted to take, and it is not. This is, in fact, new to us. Let's see. Deploy. Destroy the rightmost unit on an enemy row with at least 5 units. Okay. As long as your opponents have a lot of stuff in a row, you can delete something. Adrenaline 3. Destroy the rightmost unit on an enemy row with at least 3 units instead. Okay, so if you wait, then you have a little bit more flexibility with where you can trigger this. I think with Scoia'tel's new abilities that make it even easier to move cards around on the opposing side, that should definitely be something you can make happen. And if you're very mindful of that, you could potentially make a point of getting specifically exactly the card you want. That'd be fantastic if you can. Make it almost like a Geralt of Rivia in a way. With some setup, yes, but that's the goal at least. Okay, again, we have all these cards, but this one is animated. We definitely go for this. Okay, and here we go. Okay, so here's our first legendary, and it is in the middle, which means we'll get to choose from 3, so that's big. That's definitely where we wanted it to show up. Okay, so here comes the big decision. What do we have? I remember, I think I did see the preview for this. Death Wish, shuffle V back to your deck, then increase its base power by 3. So, this is a very strange one in that you, yes, want to destroy it, but then when it gets destroyed, it goes back into your deck and gets stronger. The thing is, it goes up by 3, which is decent if you get that to happen once, but then you need to make a point of being able to play it again in order to benefit from it. And ideally, you're having that happen multiple times so that it can get stronger still. But the problem is, how do you guarantee that you keep on drawing it? And that's easier said than done. Neuromancy, you can make it happen once with that. It is a Death Wish unit, and so there's that one, is it legendary rarity card that allows you to play any Death Wish unit from your deck with monsters? That could be another way to guarantee it. So there are a few ways, but it will take time to make that happen. So I wonder how feasible that is to make it work. I don't think I've seen you before. Ivar Evil Eye. Oh, sure, you're pleased that people have given you that name. Swap this unit's power with an enemy unit. Oh, Adrenaline 2, damage enemy unit by 4 instead. Okay, so this looks like another one where theoretically it would get stronger the longer you wait to play it, because one would assume that the more time you give your opponent to charge up and boost one of their units, the more you would benefit from being able to swap power with it. However, the Adrenaline 2 is a bit of a nerf of sorts, or at least a way to cap the amount that you can do that with this card, because otherwise you could just play it on your last turn and just swipe all the power from one of the most powerful unit on the opposing side. So still a lot of potential. That one's interesting. Then we have Dire Bear for Skellige. Units in this and opposite row can't be boosted. Huh. That's interesting. There's very few cards like that. Can't even think of any that do anything close to that. Closest thing that comes to mind is Sucrus on Skellige that prevents a unit from taking damage if it's next to him, but that's still quite different. Wonder how you make this work best. Like, how do you build around this? Like, I imagine against Northern Realms in particular that does a ton of boosting. I mean, there are a bunch of decks that, of course, focus on boosting. It does a lot to prevent your opponent from doing things, but I just wonder, how do you not hurt yourself all that much in the process? Because it's the kind of thing that's dragging down both your opponent and you. Maybe you just play this so that you don't have any other cards of your own in the same row, so that you're not really hindering yourself at all, but you're deliberately setting up so that you are hindering the row that your opponent has set up all their stuff in. I don't know. It just seems like actually executing on that, there's probably some ways to make it happen that I'm not thinking of. But at the moment, at least, this feels like that'd be awfully difficult to pull off. Kind of similar to V in a way. I feel like Ivar is standing out to me then as the one that is most intriguing right now. Because I feel like V would be very tough to make it really good. It still costs 12 provision costs, which is a ton. I feel like I'm leaning toward you. That's a tough one. And I do wonder, there are definitely going to be other people who can find a way to make those other cards work, yes. And also, let's update our counter here, because that's our first legendary card. Okay. And as soon as we do that, we get some epics to choose from, so perhaps we're on a bit of a hot streak here. What do we get this time? Okay, did we not see a Blindheim before? I was gonna say, I thought I recognized that name, but maybe Roland Blindheim was the one that I recognized, and the other one was a different Blindheim? I didn't realize there were two Blindheims. Whenever a unit is poisoned, gain 2 coins. Adrenaline 5, whenever an allied unit is poisoned, gain 2 coins instead. Okay, so if you play it early, doesn't matter who you poison, you can poison your opponent and you'll still get the coins. If you play it late, then you have to poison yourself to get the coins. Which, with Syndicate having the new self-poisoning synergies, maybe that's not a terribly difficult thing to do, but still probably would prefer to poison your opponent. Or at least any other faction would. Selective Mutation. Draw a card with Adrenaline of your choice, then shuffle back a card from your hand to your deck. Spawn a Witcher student on each allied row. Ooh. I mean, it looks terrifying, but looks like a Clockwork Orange. But this is very interesting in how it gives you a lot of control over what cards you can play, because it allows you to draw a specific card from your deck, and then it allows you to get rid of a certain card from your hand. Although I suppose... Draw a card with Adrenaline. I'm just thinking about, if you're drawing a card, I suppose, like on net, are you still gaining a card out of this? Or is it mostly just shuffling and not really... You play a card in order to draw a card, so on net you're keeping the same number of cards. Just gives you that flexibility. The real thing that you're gaining is the Witcher student, in terms of new things that are going onto the playing field. So, not much in the way of direct boosting or direct power. It's mostly just the flexibility that it gives you. It is a lot of flexibility, yes. And here's another Cohen. So I did take one of these earlier because I was really thinking this could be amazing for us. It was an animated version, so I suppose, you know, good thing that we did take that one, because it is definitely better than the one we're seeing here. Can work well if you build around him. Yeah, it seems like you need to do so much to make it happen for a 12 provision cost unit. That just seems like that's a lot to ask for, and at that point, would you rather just build around something else that can make it happen a little bit more easily? Oh, V with Haunt. That's interesting. I didn't think of that. That could be an interesting combo, yeah. Okay. Yeah, but Ivar, to me, it seemed a lot more versatile. It seemed like, you know, against Northern Realms, it would do amazingly well, where, you know, your opponent is boosting things like a Trident Infantry or Nathaniel Pastodi or an Onsace like crazy, and you can just swipe all those boosts. Or against monsters, if you have a card that is boosting a bunch of, or consuming a bunch of units and gets really high up, then you can just swipe all the boost from it. So, for that reason, I thought also it'd be really entertaining, I think, to see your opponent continuing to boost a unit and then just go, yeah, don't mind if I do, I'll just take that. Thank you very much. Yeah, he swaps power. I mean, he has 4 power himself. So, I mean, he's basically giving not a super weak amount of power, but a fairly weak amount of power to the other card, and then taking what one would hope would be a lot of power from the other card. Yeah, so I don't know what I prefer here. I do still think that Cohen might be the best card of the ones we're seeing here, but of course we've already taken him. So it's between these two. This one is neutral, so we could put it into any deck, which is a little bit intriguing. I wonder, you know, if you have something like Selective Mutation, you have your Oniromancy, and then you have something like, if you're playing Northern Realms, you have Amphibious Assault, and that gives you so much flexibility to play the cards that you want. You know, you can almost guarantee that you're going to be able to play exactly the way that you want to play, or very close to it, which is interesting. It just doesn't have a lot of direct power. With Griffin Adept. Huh. Yeah, maybe we take this. I think that one's a tough one. But since we can put it in any type of deck, I think we'll have a lot of opportunities to test it out. And, well, we'll see what we get here. That might be the card that we just passed up on, because that is Syndicate. Okay, more Bear Witcher. What is it? In fact, it is. What do you know? Good thing that we did not choose to take him last time around, because we were about to draw into another one. Then in terms of these cards here, well, we've seen them all, so no real important decision to be made. But we lucked out with this one. Passed on it earlier and then got it immediately afterward. Okay, and then back to just the normals and rares this time. Take a little break, a deep breath from all those special cards earlier. And no special animations or anything like that, so we'll just keep on moving with these. Okay, next one here, still more normals and rares. Don't think I'm seeing any special animations on any of those ones that we picked earlier, and don't think I'm seeing any here either. We'll just take the one we have the fewest of. Okay, still normals and rares. No animations there. No animations here. Slightly fewer of the Salamander Mages, so we'll take you, I guess. And this one, still more normals and rares. Don't think I'm seeing much in the way of animations either there or here. We'll keep on going. And at this point we have, in fact, this might have been our last deck, or last pack. I believe it was. Either that or we might have one more after this. We'll see what we get. We do have one epic out of this. It is neutral, which means it may be the card that we took previously. Mutagens one. It is. Okay. Well, actually, tell you what. So we had the choice of taking this, the Blindheim card that we drew from the previous, or a couple packs ago. And then we had, our last choice was Cohen. And we have happened to have gotten all of those cards. So at the end of the day, yes, we're going to get 2 selective mutations, but from that specific set of choices, it didn't really matter which one we took, as it turns out. We were going to get them all anyway. Then for this, doesn't make a huge difference. And maybe we do have one more keg, or let me close this up. I think another keg, yeah, is actually going to take us to the neutral and premium kegs. So let's take a peek here. We still have over 1,000 ore, so we could make as many as 100 or even 114 of the new packs. But what I was thinking was that maybe we would start to shift gears a little bit, and instead of going for Way of the Witcher, we go for the faction-specific kegs and maybe include neutral as well. Because as we were starting to see there, we were getting a ton of repeats for the normal cards and for the rare cards. And so every once in a while we'll get the epics, yes, and maybe even the occasional legendary. But there's just generally going to be a lot of repeats because we're drawing cards from a relatively small pool of cards. Whereas as soon as we open things up to a slightly different set, I think we'll see fewer repeats. So for that reason, it does appeal to me a bit to start going over to the faction-specific kegs, because that's the other thing, is that the faction-specific kegs can include things from the Way of the Witcher expansion, but they can also include other things from other expansions that I may not have. Speed opening. Let's see, we have... Yeah, how long did that take, out of curiosity, to go through 50 kegs? Not that long, especially considering that some of that time, you know, we were just on the intro screen there, so I think that took us like hour-ish. So maybe we go for, let's say, 50 more kegs from the faction-specific kegs. How many kinds are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I say we get 7 of each kind of keg. That'll be 49 total. And then we'll maybe get one more of the new expansion kegs. And that'll put us at 50. There's neutral. Then we'll get Nilfgaard. We'll just go down the list, basically. And so these ones we're not going to have in quite as huge chunks. We're not going to have 50 of any one specific type of keg as we were doing with the expansion. But I think that's probably a good thing to spread out the type of cards we're getting a little bit more. Because there are certainly still cards that I don't have, even from the older editions. This will be a chance to still get a little bit more of the cards from the new expansion, while also mixing things up a little bit more. That way, I don't drive you all completely insane with the, what is it, the Viper School Adepts? Or Apprentices, or whatever they were, where we got, like, 15 of them. And again, just to clarify, I'm doing all of this with in-game currency, not spending any actual dollars. So that is just because I've done a lot of Gwents over the past few months and have not opened any packs or purchased any packs over the past few months. So I've been stockpiling the ore for this exact type of occasion. And then let's just get one more Way of the Witcher keg here. That'll put us at 50. Actually, a little bit more than 50 if you also count the more generic kegs that I've gotten from various rewards, like these 23 and these 6 here. Maybe we'll finish on those depending on how we're feeling. But I think let's go for the 7 of a kind for all of the faction-specific kegs, and then we'll finish on our last Way of the Witcher keg and see how that goes. So let's do it. So this is, no, this is monsters. For a second, I was looking at the color of the pack and I was like, is this neutral? Not sure what this one is. But we do have epic rarity, and look at that. The first one we get is, in fact, one from the Way of the Witcher. And that's animated, this one here, so that's not bad, even if I already have drowners. We get to choose between these. I have 2 parasites, so definitely don't want to do that. But we have more Voodoo. I don't recognize this card. Boost all allied beast units by 1. We have a bunch of beasts that could be strong, though I question just how many beasts you could have. Because beast is not the easiest type of unit to load up on. Insectoids probably is. You probably could make it happen, but I feel like that's maybe not that good. I have seen people use Gale, but remind me what it does. Damage an enemy unit by 1 if it's bleeding. Deal 3 damage instead. Death blow boosts up by the destroyed unit's base power. Oh, okay. So you want to have a strong unit that is heavily damaged, and then just have Gale do the finishing blow and boost himself a ton in the process? Morvid with were. Oh, are the rats and were-rats beasts? Are the rats beasts? They are? Ooh. I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something. That is a very interesting combination. Let's go for it. I like it. Good point. Good point. Okay. More monsters. More hybrids. Okay, what else will we get here? Nothing particularly new. We'll just take one. We have them all. Oh, and look at that. Okay, legendaries in the middle. That's big. It's very big. We'll get the choice. See what we get this time around. More Way of the Witcher. So it's good to see that we are definitely still getting cards from Way of the Witcher, even in these just faction-specific packs here. All right, what do we have? So we have Plague Maiden. This one can spawn 7 rats in a row when it gets destroyed with Death Wish. This would be another way in which to get a bunch of beasts in the same row. And could also be a bit of a way to set up Were-Rat? Maybe? I forget. Is Were-Rat only consuming 1 unit per turn? And so getting a bunch of rats isn't actually that helpful, as much as it's like getting a big unit to consume might be a bit of more of a difference maker. Yeah, and it's going to fill the row pretty quickly. That's true. That's true. So I don't think that's going to work very well. Oh, actually, I don't have a Yigurn. This is a big card. You see this in many, many monster decks. Gain armor equal to the number of cards in your hand. this unit loses all of its armor, has no armor, it gets destroyed. So you ideally either play it early when you have a lot of cards in your hand, and that way it's a little bit more durable, or you play it even when it has low armor, and then you consume it soon thereafter. That way you can absorb the strength into another more durable card. But Wispest Tribute is also extremely strong, right? Play an organic card from your deck. Oh no, this is actually not the Wispest I'm thinking of. But, this one you could use to play, what is it? It's that organic card that allows you to play any Death Wish card from your deck that I was thinking would be a good combination with this. I actually don't remember if I have that card or not. Whispering Hillock, that one. Isn't that usually the combo? Is that what you tend to play with Wispest Tribute when you get to play an organic card from your deck? Because there are other organic cards for sure, but I think that's usually the strongest one. And in which case, it's largely a question of, do I have it? And I'm not sure I do. But I think that generally speaking, Ygern is pretty solid in many different monster decks. This is pretty versatile. Wispest Tribute, maybe. But Plague Maiden, I think, is probably the least so. I think we go with Ygern here. Okay. So that's a big pickup, and that's actually our second legendary. So one moment, let me update our number here. And we've also lucked out because all the legendary cards that we've gotten thus far have been with the middle card, so we've been able to choose. Okay, anything special here? Okay, we can get an animated Necker. We do have all these cards, but we don't have any animated Neckers yet, so let's take that. And then at this point, that might have been our last monster deck. No, we've plenty more packs, actually, for monsters. Yeah, I think when it comes to cards like that, where we're choosing between several in the middle card when we have 3 choices, I would tend to prefer the more versatile card, unless the one that is more specialized is just absolutely amazing and totally build enabling or deck enabling. Okay, nothing special here, but we do have an epic card. This one, Hadakan. Well, it costs 9 provisions, wow. But Thrive with 6 strength is a little bit hard to trigger that, but sure. Pawn an Ekimara and summon it to this row. Death Wish, repeat the deploy ability. So, I have seen people use this card a lot, but I'll be honest here. It's not impressing me very much, especially not for 9 provisions. That's hard to trigger that Thrive, and sure, you get to summon a 2 strength unit and get another one. I suppose you just consume Hadakan and Ekimara together, and then when you do that, you get a free Ekimara. It's basically the way to look at it. I don't know. I mean, sure, we get it, and we don't have to pick between any other cards, so we'll take it. But I question it a little bit. Yeah, it's a tall Thrive. Let's see, and then nothing really to choose here. Have all those. And, oh, for a second I thought that was epic. It is not, though, unfortunately. And nothing crazy here. This is animated, and we have all the other cards, so I think we just go for the animated card here. And then this looks like our last monsters pack. Nothing special out of this one, it doesn't seem. At least, not from a rarity standpoint. From an animation standpoint, is this exactly the same choices we had last time? These two were, just this one was animated. I don't think this was the one we had as our rightmost card, but sure, we'll take this one. Doesn't really matter on that occasion. And now we will be moving on to, looks like, Nilfgaard. So shifting gears here a bit. See if we can get anything good from Nilfgaard. I would say Nilfgaard, there was a long time which I very rarely played it, but after the which seasonal event was it? The one switcheroo, where you switched hands with your opponent after every or basically after every turn, I became a much bigger fan of it and got used to playing it a lot more. It definitely does take some getting used to, but I think it has turned into a faction that I have played the second most often, or at least that I've been the second most successful with after Northern Realms. So hoping for some good things here. Nothing terribly special out of this one yet. Then, okay, well, this time, looking much better. We can choose between some epic cards, and that's actually only my second spotter. Wow. I didn't have two of them before. That is surprising, but that's kind of what I mean when I was saying earlier that even some of the old cards, there are certainly some that I don't have very many of, and that's a decent card. Okay, so here's the big one, though. So, we have Cadaverin. Zeal, destroy self and all units whose power equals Cadaverin's charge count. Charge 0. Every allied turn on turn start, and whenever you play a tactic, gain 1 charge. I have seen people use this. In the right circumstances, it is devastating. It does take some time to make it happen, but it's basically, well, I suppose, are there still cards that destroy artifacts? I think there still are, but they're pretty rare, and outside of that, it is almost unstoppable. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I've been playing, generally speaking, I play the seasonal events a ton, and then play very little in the standard rule set. So, for that reason, the cards and factions and abilities that are usually the most effective ones that I'm seeing are not necessarily the ones that are the most effective, the most meta for the standard rule set. So, like, for example, back in the Switcheroo seasonal event, Nilfgaard was amazing. In the previous seasonal event, where everyone had resilience, was also extremely strong with Nilfgaard because the Thirsty Dames basically automatically got boosted by 1 every turn because every opposing unit was going to have at least resilience, and then you can add on other poison and other statuses that you might be able to apply with your usual Nilfgaard cards, and suddenly it was, yeah, one of the best cards. And dare I say, yeah, you know, the Masquerade Balls were also, of course, fantastic for that reason, as much as you hate them. Heatwave and Shoop. Heatwave can destroy artifacts? I didn't remember that. Yeah, I don't know. I find that it certainly takes some getting used to the seasonal events. The first few times I played, it raises an eyebrow, and I'm not sure what I think about it. But then I create a deck specifically for it, and then once I do that and get a better sense as to what works best for the new rule set, I generally kind of get into a bit of a flow with that and stick to it for the most part. But our other options here are Albrick or Albrich. Move any card from your deck to the top if it's a unit boosted by 2. This is a way for Nilfgaard to get some good control over which cards you're going to be able to play, and there are even some cards, or at least one card in particular, that you automatically bring onto the playing field when it goes to the top of your deck, so there's a good way to set that up. I don't know, though. Is that really that valuable? Because, like, Van Morleham's Cupbearer is really good, is it not? Assimilate, with 5 strength to begin with, can either poison or purify. I mean, it does typically go with the really annoying Masquerade Ball decks, and so it's a piece in that puzzle, but that is a really strong puzzle. Yeah, I feel like I do really like Cadaverin, but Cupbearer is also really good. So I think we go with Cupbearer, and if this shows up again, of course, I would be very tempted to take it. But that's the other thing, actually, is I think... So when I was doing Nilfgaard before, at least most often, when I was using it, I was doing Assimilate. And so I did not have the Cupbearer, of course, because that was the first one that I've gotten of them. So I think getting another Assimilate card, a strong Assimilate card, would be very useful. But I think for that reason, it's also a good pickup. And nothing too important here. You have been renamed to Kingslayer. Okay, you were previously Viper Witcher. You have been replaced in that regard. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Now we're talking for Nilfgaard. Legendary, again, we get to choose which one it is, so that's fantastic. Other than that, Nothing too special here, but let's see what this is. We get to choose between Ernie Shalmar. This looks vaguely familiar. Damage Nilfgaardian enemy unit by 7. Wait, what? So you need to be going against Nilfgaard? Or range boosts health by 2 for each allied unit from a different faction. Oh, I see. So this is actually supposed to be for Assimilate, right? Because basically, you damage enemy units that are from Nilfgaard. I mean, either it could be your opponent happens to be playing Nilfgaard, in which case that's convenient, or you're doing things like creating spies and things of the sort, in which case usually your spies are not all the way up boosted to 7, so that's still a little strange. But boosts 2 for each allied unit from a different faction. Nilfgaard can do that with Assimilate for sure. Oh, is Masquerade Ball one of them? Oh, Masquerade Ball is one of them. I didn't even look past this one to start off with. I mean, it's probably the best card in the game, or at least very close to it. It is also a card that I personally despise and not sure I could live with myself if I were to actually use it in a deck. At least I would not be seen in public after doing that. So, you saw nothing. Moving on. Nothing of note there, nor particularly notable here. Okay, let's see. Still just normals and rares. And this time, still, I mean, we are still getting Way of the Witcher cards, which, again, I like to see that we still have the chance of getting some of the rarer ones that we've not yet seen. Oh, and look at this. Okay, legendary. Oh, actually, I don't think I updated our legendary number after the previous one. We are, of course, about to get another. This is our first legendary that we will not be able to choose, which is a little bit unfortunate. But we'll see what we get. We'll finish with it. Or at least we have to take this one last, but now we'll do this one. Yennefer's Invocation. This is so good. I cannot tell you how many times the person I've been playing against has just plucked away my best card and gone, yeah, I'll take that with this card right here. So, yeah, that's fantastic. You can turn the stream off while using it. Yeah, just make sure not to, you know, put that in any decks while streaming or making YouTube videos or things of that sort. But yeah, I think that's, especially for a legendary card that we did not get the chance to choose, that probably would have been the one that I would have chosen anyway, if we were able to choose between 3, so that's big. Then here, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Let's see, how many Nilfgaard packs do we have left? This actually, I think, went to a generic pack, so I think we did, in fact, finish Nilfgaard there. This one snuck up on us. At least we got an animated scout out of it, I guess. I mean, that's something. And that's actually also animated. Okay, sure, and that... Oh, no, this must be a premium pack. Because there's no way these all coincidentally happen to be 100% animated. There's no way, right? So, this is definitely a premium one. That's why they're all animated. Unfortunately, we didn't get any particularly high rarity ones animated, yes, but... Let's see, we can either go Solano Harpy here, or Rot Tosser. Neither one of those we have an animated version of. I don't think that either one of these are all that interesting with their animations, so I'm not sure there's a great tiebreaker. Maybe we'll go Rot Tosser, I don't know. But let's make a point of switching back over to the faction-specific ones, and we'll do Northern Realms here. As I was saying before, Northern Realms is usually my go-to faction. I play Northern Realms probably at least twice as much as I do other factions. So yeah, that means I'm quite pleased to see that we are immediately starting off with some legendaries here. We did get, I would argue, fairly unlucky. I'm going to bump up our legendary counter a little bit here because I don't think updated it after we got the Yennefer's Invocation, but yeah, I think we got pretty unlucky with the Way of the Witcher packs. We only got, what, 1 legendary out of that, I think? So good to see that we're perhaps making up for it a bit here with the faction-specific ones. Okay, plenty of Redanian Knights, plenty of Temerian Infantries, Intern Royal Guards, and 20 Knights. This is the big one, though. Oh, okay. So, I'm very familiar with these, but I don't have any of them. So, Queen Adalia is good for the shield synergies, yes. Selkirk is actually also good for the shield synergies. It's just that Natalia is someone who applies shields, although specifically to bronze units, whereas Selkirk is someone who is fantastic with the shields. Malabor is also really good with a really strong deploy ability. These are all great cards. I don't know. I'm leaning towards Selkirk, but all of these are fantastic. I think Selkirk, but you really could make a case for any of them. Let's go for it. I mean, duel is just so unusual. I do have Onsace, so I can get duel that way, but it's just such a powerful ability to be able to do that consistently. And okay, we're following up with some epics. I like to see that too, especially for Northern Realms. I am a fan. Oh, and look at that. Okay, animated and from Way of the Witcher. So that's good to see. For this one, okay, so I do have, in fact, all of these. Oh, okay, that's unfortunate. So I may have also opened up, I think I've opened up more Northern Realms specific packs than any other faction, specifically because, well, yeah, I was playing mostly Northern Realms and continue to play mostly Northern Realms, so was prioritizing that over other types of factions. So that might be why we're seeing on this occasion here that I have all these cards already, and so not really anything in particular that we want or need more than others. So we'll just take Trollololo, because why would you not take Trollololo? Can't turn him down, right? Okay, you know, it's working out for us right about now. Certainly on a hot streak now. What do we get this time? This time we can get reinforcements. I do already have one of those. It is animated. I do also have Death Mold already. But I do not have Margarita. So I think, nice as it would be to get an animated version of this card, I think we still go for the one that I don't yet have, because for epic cards, they're pretty hard to get. And so, you know, it's not like the rare ones where you can be pretty sure that if you just open a few more packs, you're going to get the ones that you have not yet taken. So I think we go for her. Do you think the animated? You think the animated still? Also, it's a little bit weird, but I'm pretty sure that some of those guys are flying. The way that their feet are hitting the ground, they're like kind of not hitting the ground. I don't know. You think still the animated is better? I suppose, I mean, how much does it cost to create an epic card with scraps? It's 200, is it? 200, yeah. I'm wondering, like, okay, if we were to go with the animated version of this, that is technically rarer. It's just that we already have it. So then if we were feeling like we really wanted to have Margarita, then might we do something like craft her with scraps? Suppose that's always an option, yes. But I do also kind of like to save my scraps. Let's go for the reinforcements, like you said, for the animation. It is technically the rarest. We just already have it, so see what else we get. I mean, at this rate, the epic and legendary cards are growing on trees, is what I was about to say. Then I saw that we were actually going to open up another pack with more legendaries, and I didn't know what to say. So, okay, like I said, of all of the factions for this to happen with, I'm very happy that it is Northern Realms. So, awesome. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing what we get out of this one. What are our choices? Oh, Archgriffin is new, is it not? It is. At the end of the round, shuffle this card back to your deck, keeping its boost. Oh, nifty. Very nifty. That means you can make Archgriffin the target of your boosts, and then at the end of the round, it goes back into your deck. It's not quite resilience, but it's almost like that, and then you hope that you draw back into it in round 2 or 3, and then it's going to be extremely powerful when you do that, because Northern Realms is so good at boosting. Unfortunately, it has 10 provisions for its cost, which means you can't use Amphibious Assault, right? That's only up to 9 provision cost. Though, maybe you could use, what is it, Alzur's Cross for your highest card, play that from your deck. You'd have to have nothing higher than 5, which would be kind of difficult to make that happen. Usually I use Donimir of Troy, which is the defender with 7 strength. So that would mean Most of the time, it'd be drawing him unless you already have him in your hand. It is great. It's just a question of how easily can you get it back. There's another card in our deck that eats the boosts. The flying reinforcements brought the good luck. That may be. So this is really tempting. War Elephants, I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest. Boost self by 8 is a lot if you have crew active, but still for 12 provision costs, I suppose it does start off with 8 already. And it is a siege engine, and I think it is the rarest of siege engines. So if you're trying to load up on as many siege engines as possible for something like, what is it, Bombardment? Is that the special card that deals damage based on the number of siege engines that you have? Then this is the hardest one to get to maximize the effectiveness of that card. I tend not to go that route with Northern Realms, though. Tend not to focus on the siege engines all that much. So Priscilla, I think, would be the other really strong candidate here, because give a unit +1 charge. I do really like using Corvo to give a bunch of boosts. And so combining Priscilla with Corvo is a fantastic combo. This is really tempting with the usual, basically, with my usual type of Northern Realms deck setup. Priscilla is absolutely best out of all these cards here. If I were to try to create a new Northern Realms type of deck, I might try to create one that works with Archgriffin, but I'm not sure it would work with the way that I usually create my decks, because I don't really have much in the way of cards that allow me to draw specific or play specific cards from my deck. Sometimes I use Alzur's Double Cross, and not always. And even then, it's not a perfect way of drawing you. War Elephant, I think, is the worst fit with what I normally do with Northern Realms. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is Priscilla plus Corvo is just such a good combo that it's really hard to pass on that. As much as I really want to take the new legendary card from the new expansion, I think this is just too good of a synergy to pass up on. So, of course, if it does show up again, be happy to take Archgriffin, yes. But I think that's just too hard to pass up on Priscilla here. Alright, and do we have any more Northern Realms, or have we already used up all of ours? Because, well, we have 3 more. At this rate, have we gotten... I think we've gotten more Northern Realms packs with epics and legendary cards than ones without epics or legendaries. It's been absurdly good thus far. Unfortunately, our luck doesn't continue this time, but I wouldn't rule it out for our 2 remaining packs, because there's been that type of Northern Realms packs we've been doing. That's actually only my second Kidwani Revenant. I only had one before, so for that reason I was not really able to do a full Kidwani Revenant deck. I mean, of course, they're pretty easy to make. They're pretty cheap, because they're just rarity. For this, no animated options, so we'll just go with whatever on that one. Then I think we have 2 left for Northern Realms. What we get this time, still back to the usual stuff. And by usual stuff, I mean not terribly good stuff. I mean, usual, I suppose you could perhaps interpret as amazing cards, because we've gotten so many of those. This is animated, so we'll take that. And then this is our last Northern Realms, and unfortunately, we are not ending on a bang here. We already had plenty of rarity for our Northern Realm stuff. And then this, again, is all stuff we have and no animated cards, so nothing special to choose from here. Okay, now we will be shifting over to, looks like, let's do Scoia'tel. Scoia'tel, in terms of what I tend to do with them, they're usually my throwaway faction. Basically, whenever I have weird dailies, like play a bunch of artifacts or special cards, I usually use Scoia'tel. So like my win-loss record with Scoia'tel is absolutely worse than with any other faction, because I have a bunch of terrible decks with them, which is just like, how many artifacts can I put in one deck? Let's see, nothing special here. Scoia'tel Neophyte is rare? It's not a normal rarity card? Pretty bad for a rare rarity. But okay, we'll take one, because it doesn't really matter which one we take. Okay, nothing special here. And here, nothing special either. We have plenty of all of them, so doesn't really matter. Let's see what we get this time. Any luck with Scoia'tel? I mean, I suppose in some ways, like I was saying, if I was able to choose which faction I would most want us to have luck with, it would have been Northern Realms, and I think we absolutely got that. So, to tell you the truth, I'm quite alright if we find that other packs we open for other factions, we don't luck out very much. So I think we've already gotten plenty good things for Northern Realms, and that makes up for any bad luck we might get with other types of factions. So I'll take it. Let's see what else we get. Nothing great yet, though, for Scoia'tel. No big cards. Oh, and I also did not update our number after the Priscilla. We're up to 5 legendaries now, and here's an epic. So this will be our best Scoia'tel card thus far. No choices here. Oh, I do already have an Etriel, unfortunately, but still a decent card, no less. And here we only have 2 Dwarven Chariots, so I suppose we take one of those. Would have been great if that was animated, of course, because then we would have had reason to use this version of the card, but it's just a normal version. But at least that means we're getting more than just rares and normal rarity cards out of Scoia'tel. We can at least say we got something special. And speaking of something special, well, nothing here that's special. Yeah, I think we're doing okay on the legendaries overall. Oh, this is new. For me, at least, even though it's not from a new pack. Wow, how have I not gotten this before? In fact, I'm not even sure I've ever seen anyone play this. Deploy given allied unit vitality with a duration equal to the number of other allied Dryad units. Huh. I mean, there's definitely some Dryad vitality synergies. There is that Dryad card that gets boosted every time it has vitality. So I think that's probably the best way to pair up with this card. It's only 4 provision costs, so you could probably make it happen. It's normal rarity as well. How do I not have any of those yet? I don't know. That's really strange. And for these, shouldn't really matter. No animations. Okay, and oh wow, we're back to that was the last of our Scoia'tel cards. This is going to be one of the premium packages here with all animated cards. Just hoping for, well, some types that we don't already have 2 animated cards of. Also would have preferred higher rarity than this, but Blue Stripe Scout, at least we didn't have any animated versions of those. For these guys here, already have 2 animated emissaries. I feel like the animation here is, you can barely even tell. Cyclops, at least, he's moving. Cyclops is definitely moving. I think we take the Cyclops. Okay. But now we actually should switch gears over to Skellige. See what we get out of you. And for that, it is, well, nothing great out of this just yet. No animations here, so doesn't matter what we take. We have all those already. And alright, Skellige used to be my second faction. It has basically always been Northern Realms first for me. Then, for a while, Skellige was number 2, and then I spent a long time without playing it, even when it was basically, this was like when it was in the meta. I basically started to just, well, I put it aside for a little while, and then after that, Nilfgaard became my second faction. That sort of took its place, but Skellige and Nilfgaard are kind of, they're neck and neck in a way, I suppose. It's just been a while since I last played Skellige, so for that reason, this would be another faction that I would be happy to find us picking up more legendary cards for. We'll see what we get here. And for this one, we can get Artis. Whenever a unit is played, damage it by half its current power. I have seen people use this before. It's a good way of what? Setting up the cards that have Bloodlust. Then can be. I thought, isn't this crazy? Discard the rightmost card in your hand. Your opponent discards the rightmost card in their hand. So it's a weird one. Really, really weird card. But can potentially work really well. Wild Boar of the Sea, I think, is also really good. Damage all enemy units by 1. Then damage all enemy units by 1 again. So this is another card that's very helpful for setting up the Bloodlust. I don't know. This one is the most unusual, the most meme-ish, if you will. But it's kind of just a roll of the dice. You don't really know how effective it's going to be. Maybe you happen to get rid of your opponent's best card, in which case, fantastic. Maybe you get rid of something that does not, or maybe it's, the worst card, in which case it doesn't do much. There are some cards with Skellige that if you discard them, they do special things, so you can benefit a bit from that if you are making a point of discarding one of your own cards that does something special when it gets discarded. But I think I'm still leaning toward one of these. Just not sure which one I prefer. This one's a little bit more extreme, I feel like. Whereas this one is a little bit more versatile, maybe? Or a little bit more... It's a little bit safer, maybe. It's a better way to phrase it. You think the boat is the best? Alright, let's go for the boat then. And that bumps up our legendary count a little bit more. Oh, and I forgot to bump it up to 6, so we're actually at 7 now, is that right? Let's carry on to the next pack. We'll see if Skellige can have the same kind of luck we had with Northern Realms. As much as I would like for that to happen, I kind of doubt it. That would be pretty difficult to have that much luck. And nothing animated here. These are all cards that we already have, so no reason to take any one over another. Okay, epic raring. That's not bad. Let's see what else we get as well. Plenty of armor ups from when we were doing the Way of the Witcher expansion specifically. As for what we get here, ooh, these two at least are two very popular cards for Skellige. Morkvarg is one of those cards that you very much do want to have discarded. And then Blue Boy Lugos is one of the cards that you want to get damaged. And this is... I don't see people play this card very often at all. I think it is probably significantly weaker than the others. Boost all allied warrior units by 1. I mean, it can be decent, but in many ways this feels like it is... I know warriors are almost exclusive to Skellige, but at least the way in which this ability works, the type of effect it is, boosting all of a certain kind of unit, feels like a Northern Realms card in a Skellige deck. So I feel like it should be one of these. Just a matter of, do we want to be discarding this card, or do we want to be damaging our own cards instead? Neither of those are things that I do that often when I mean, it's been a while since I played Skellige. But what was I doing when I was doing Skellige? That's a good question. I don't remember. I mean, that was back when On-Crate Longsword was totally different. And so I think I was just largely maximizing the damage and perhaps abusing On-Crate Longsword to the extent that, you could just have it boosted into the stratosphere. Not a lot in the way of self-damage or self-discard. I think either of these could be very good. Don't have a strong preference, though, between them. Huh. I don't know. Maybe we go with... I'm trying to think of which one might be a little bit more versatile, but I think we go with Morkvarg, maybe. Either one, I think. They're both very good. Both are staples of various Nilfgaard decks. And if the other one shows up on a future pack, then great. I think we'd be happy to take it. Just my eyes closed and click wildly. Ultimately, it was pretty close to coming down to that. Let's see, and nothing really important to choose between here. Then how many Skelliges do we have left? 2? Oh, okay, well, maybe we will get the card that we passed up on earlier. We'll have to see. Okay, nothing special with those, but with this, no, we won't. But there are some good cards here, I think. Don't recognize this one. Is this one new? No, it's not. In fact, it's very old. It's from the original set. Damage self by 3, then move a card from your deck to your graveyard. So this would be a way of making Morkvarg, the card that we did take, trigger, where it starts in your graveyard and then it gets moved into the playing field. That's one of the ways you can make it happen. This usually isn't the way that I see it happening. Usually it's the other really annoying card. Probably the only card that rivals Masquerade Ball in terms of cards that I really hate other people using. That being, what's his name? Lippy something. Who basically flips your deck and your graveyard. So you can play all of your best cards twice. And all the Skellige cards that get benefits from being in your graveyard, like Morkvarg, can make their thing happen. There's that. Then there's Build Carl. Transform into Champion of Svalblood if it gets down to just 2 strengths. This is another one that you do want to self-damage with. That would be perhaps more synergistic with the other card that we did not take with our previous round of epics. Then Skjal is one that you don't want to have self-damage because he starts off with a ton of strength, but if he goes down to 5, then he gets destroyed altogether. Yeah, I hate Lippy, and I strongly dislike playing against anyone who uses him. So this could be a way to set up Morkvarg. I don't know if it's necessarily the best way to do it. Yeah, is Burn a Brand, is that the one that discards like 2 cards in your hand or something like that? And then maybe draw 2 cards, is that the one? Something like that? Maybe that's the best way to make it happen. So I think in a vacuum, Build Carl is probably the best card here. If we're deliberately trying to pick a card that synergizes with the card that we took previously, then it is probably Darren. That's interesting. Eat their graveyard, and then fill their actual deck with junk. With new Nilfgaard. That is an interesting point. That is a good counter to Lippy. Huh. I'm gonna have to see if I can make that happen on some occasion and take joy in all the times that the Lippies have won with that last-minute deck flip, and then just remember that when I finally get revenge on them. Yeah, I think let's go for Vid Carl here. And this is our last Skellige. Oh, and look at that. Okay, another epic rarity. Nice, nice. And oh, that's animated. Almost didn't even see. And that is too. Okay, so good on the animations here. Then a few options. Okay, so I do have Herald Houndsnout. In fact, I do have an animated version of Herald Houndsnout. Fun fact, I actually got the animated version of him from the daily reward from logging in. And I was always telling myself, man, it seems like the animated cards and the random normal cards that you get on those days when you just log in, they always seem to be terrible. I mean, of course, it's more likely for you to get the normal rarity, and then slightly, well, it does happen that you get the rares, but this is the only time I've ever gotten an epic, and it was animated as well, so I was like, oh, okay, awesome, sure, I'll take it. But so I already have those. Delirium, split 6 damage randomly between all units on an enemy row. Can be very good removal, although it is random, that damage. Or deploy Bloodthirst 1, lock an enemy unit as long as one person is damaged on the opposing side, you can lock. So I think either of these... Oh yeah, no, Viper, is that the card? That's the new Nilfgaard card that quite literally goes into the... It's the one that goes into the opposing graveyard and actually like destroys all of the cards in the opposing graveyard, and then once it does, it like goes back into your deck? Is that the way it works? Something like that? I do think I saw a preview of that card and it looked ridiculous. Sounds crazy. I'm probably getting some of the details wrong, but something like that. Okay, I'm thinking for this one, no, between these two. This one's probably, well, I mean, both of them are pretty useful. I mean, getting Bloodthirst 1 is not difficult to make that happen, and then locking is, most of the time, something that's going to be very helpful. Sure, sometimes people have Veil, or they'll be able to Purify, and so they'll be able to get rid of it, but for the most part, that's a pretty simple way to benefit from shutting down your opponent. And then damage also, yeah, that too. Yeah, I've yet to see it actually played in an actual game, but it does sound like it'll be hilarious to see it happen. So that would have been one of the cards that I very much would have liked to have gotten when we were opening up the Way of the Witcher or Nilfgaard decks or packs, because that one does sound really cool. I think we go for Delirium here. I think they're both. This is another case of them both being really good, both solid. You'd like to have both of them. Oh, this one's going to be another premium, because I forgot to switch over. That was the last of our Skellige decks. Or, I keep on calling them decks, but packs. So these are all going to be animated. Again, we're getting kind of unlucky with these premium packs with pretty low rarity options here. In fact, these are all cards that we do have an animated version of. Of these cards, I definitely play Imperial Diplomacy the most, and I do also think I like the animation the most for it, because this guy's just hilarious. The way he's like, no. Sorry, not going to happen. So I think we'll go with that one there. And then don't open the next keg. We're going for... Now this is neutral, and then Syndicate. Let's go Syndicate first. Let's do all the faction-specific ones first. Okay. So Syndicate is the deck that I've actually never used once. I have used Syndicate cards that are the hybrids between Syndicate and one other faction. Definitely used those before, but never been specifically a Syndicate deck before. So when it comes to having really good cards for a specific faction, I suppose that would make Syndicate be the lowest on my priority list. We'll see what we get. And it also may mean that we have the fewest Syndicate cards of any of the factions. We'll see. Okay, well, we're getting some epics here. That's not bad. And, well, we've found 3 Blindheims, or actually 4 Blindheims today, 3 of which were Roland. We passed him the first time, took him the second time, now we see him the third time, but we definitely don't want to take him here. Our other alternatives are Lieutenant Von Hurst. I think I've seen a lot of people use this. This is a really great way to spawn these zealots, right? At the end of your turn, spawn a Firestorm Zealot in this row, as long as you have 4 coins. You pay 1, you can transform a Zealot into a Flaming Rose Footman. This is a really good card. Don't remember seeing you, though. I don't know if I've ever seen you. Gain 3 coins. If you are in the graveyard, or if this other card is in the graveyard, gain 6 coins instead. I don't think I have that card. I think it's gotta be Lieutenant Von Hurst here. I think that's just too good to pass up on. That is one of the key engines, I think, for Firesworn decks. Let's see what else we get. Okay, nothing new and nothing animated there. Take another one of you, because we only have 2 of you. And then still just mostly normals and rares here. This one is animated. Oh, but we only have 1 Cleaver's Muscle. That's actually surprising. I think we probably do still go with the animation here. Same logic we've had in the past is that we would prefer to take the animation because that is a little bit rarer. And we'd have to assume that it's going to be easy enough if we want to get a Cleaver's Muscle that we can make that happen. Okay, we have a few more for Syndicate, and this one will have... Oh, actually, this one will have us choose between epic cards. This one is a free epic card as well. Or an unexpected epic card, if you will. And this one will be Pickpocket, which I don't yet have. Profit 7. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, then ones we can choose... We can have, okay, several cards that we can choose, or that are usable in several factions. However, I already have a Rico. I already have 2 of Hugo Boombreaker. So I think for that reason, it probably means we are definitely going with Kurt here. But I have actually seen him and used him in an arena deck before. And being able to either lock or purify is nice flexibility there. So I think there are definitely many different ways you can work them into a deck. And I think this is our second to last Syndicate pack here. And we'll just take the card here that we have the least of, I think. And then this, I think, will be our last one. Yeah, for Syndicate at least. Nothing special to wrap things up, at least it doesn't seem. And here, same story. Doesn't much matter what we take. Okay. So now we shift gears to neutral. That is, of course, the one type of card that we would not be able to get from all those faction-specific ones. And this is only a recent addition, really. I don't think I have... I think this is my first ever neutral-specific pack that I've opened. I really didn't have any Devil's Puffballs. Wow, and I only had one Dimerinian Shackles. So, okay. Good. There are also, I think, far more neutral cards than there are any other type of card. So, probably means we're drawing from the largest pool, and therefore, even though probably do have a lot of them, because there are so many cards to choose from, it might be the faction, if you want to call it that have the most missing cards in. And here, I mean, we'll take Piercing Missile, I guess? Sure. Let's open the next one. Okay, now we're talking. And some of the legendaries for neutral are just fantastic, so see what this one turns out to be. Now, are we up to date on our legendaries? What do we have listed at the moment? We have 7, is that right? Or are we on 8 at this point? I've lost track. I don't remember, because I've typically been trying to update them immediately after we actually open them, but I feel like we might have missed one. We might actually be on 8, but here's this round. See what we get. And we have Yennefer Divination. Deploy range, reveal a random unit from your deck, then boost an allied unit by its power. And she is a unit herself. So, let's see. Boost an allied unit by its power. I think this is usually best for what? Monsters? Because monsters tends to have the highest base strength power, or yeah, the highest base strength units. Except maybe as of this expansion, Skellige has gotten a lot more of those with all the Bear Witcher cards. So it might be a strong candidate for Skellige as well. This would be a way to either lock or remove a lock from a unit. It can go either way depending on which row we played in. Then this card is, I remember, it's just a little unusual. Each player, if we play in the melee row, each player summons the unit with the highest provision cost from their deck to the melee row. Play in the range row, each player summons the unit with the lowest provision cost from their deck to the range row. That is strange. So, let's see. If you are Northern Realms and you play in the range row, summon the weakest or the lowest provision cost unit, you could potentially summon the, what is it, Kedweni Knights? Is that their name? The ones that get boosted when they get summoned? I mean, that's a pretty small play still. There are, I think, 4 base strength, getting boosted by 3 when that happens, up to 7. So it's an 11-point play for 10 provisions. It still seems like that's a lot. And you're also giving your opponent some strength as well. But I'd have to imagine what you really want to do is the melee one. And you just need to have a strong melee, or strong high provision card that doesn't use the deploy ability. You're fine with just being there out on the playing field. For getting rid of your opponent's best card, assuming that it has a deploy ability, and making it so that they can't use that. Interesting. Just sabotaging your opponent sounds like something Nilfgaard decks would do in particular, but I suppose you could do it with anything. Just Nilfgaard is so good at sabotaging the other person's deck. Huh. I don't know. And this is probably the most versatile. This one is also something you could put in a few decks, but I still feel like it's risky enough that you don't know how much you're gonna get that boost to be, and it could be quite bad for a 9 provision cost unit. Is that sometimes it's gonna feel pretty bad. It's gonna feel like it's not worth it. This one, when you do pull it off, you're gonna feel like a genius if you can mill out the best card on your opponent's side and have it so they aren't using the deploy effect. Oh yeah, Nilfgaard does have the 13 base power one that has your opponent summon the top card from their deck and play that, or might even be the highest provision cost or highest base strength unit. Which is actually kind of similar to this, because I don't think that is technically having your opponent play that card. It's having them summon it, which means that it does not trigger deploy in that case either. So you could be really devious with Nilfgaard, have both of those cards, and just get rid of all of your opponent's best cards, or at least make it so they can't actually trigger their deploy abilities. So yeah, I mean, if you can pull that off, then this would be great. The question is, how consistently can you pull that off? So it's like the, the really devious one. Try to, make it so that he's the only actual unit in your deck with Yennefer, and that way you're guaranteed to, or very likely at least, have it be the 13 strength unit that gets boosted. So both of these could be very Nilfgaard-centric cards. Oh, and the Golem. The big Golem. Okay. Huh. I don't know. I mean, I could see myself using this card if I were deliberately just trying to be a troll and mess with my opponent's head, which, if I were to try to do that, then Nilfgaard would definitely be the deck I'd do it with, and, you could get a pretty crazy deck with that. So, I'm just not sure I ever see myself using this competitively, like seriously, when I'm actually trying to, put a legitimate deck out there and try to win. Not to say that you can't win with it, it just feels like it's too memey. I don't know. Use it with living armor. That's the one that has strength equal to its armor rating no matter what. And it does have a high provision cost, I think. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have any deploy abilities. Okay. Alright. Maybe we try the unicorn then. It's probably the most interesting. Apparently, we have also completed some kind of contract there. And before I forget, let's bump up our number for legendary cards. Ten provisions? Okay. Let's see, for this stuff, suppose we only had 2 Sabums, not that that matters much, but get another one here. And oh, we only have one of both of these, Watchman and Cutthroat. I think I prefer Watchman. I think they're both cards that you tend not to use very often, but if you are deliberately trying to do a shield deck, then I think that Watchman can in some cases be useful, whereas Cutthroat, for the most part, there are just better bleed units out there. But again, it's a rare card, so theoretically we should be able to get that pretty easily if we feel like we really need it. Worst comes to worst, I could craft one. More epic here. And we get to choose. Let's see, so I don't have any of these. And we could go Last Wish. Look at the top 2 cards from your deck, then play one and banish the other. This would be another card you can use to manipulate which cards you actually play, which cards you don't. And I have seen this card for, I think I had it in Arena. But Heal Self, you can basically do it every turn, and it is pretty high base strength, so it gets damaged. You can keep him up at 7 strength pretty consistently, hard to take him out. Basically, just going to be someone that people don't want to try to damage. Then Ifrit, speaking of damage, deals a lot of damage. Damage all units on the opposite row by 1, cooldown 3. So, I think this it's pretty simple, straightforward. It's basically just 7 strength, and it's going to stay 7 strength. This one is, if you are doing a lot of the whole cards that make it so that you're able to pick and choose exactly what you want to play, then you can have very direct control over what you're playing. Whereas the Ifrit is maybe the quote-unquote well, it's the most powerful, I would say, in that the damaging all units on the opposite row can do a lot of damage, and that's a long cooldown, yes, but if you can get that to trigger a few times, then that certainly adds up. So I think I'm leaning toward the Ifrit, just because the upside, the potential is better than it is for certainly at least you. Maybe you can make the case that Last Wish could be quite strong in certain circumstances, but just a little bit hard to get excited about it. See what else we have here. Nothing too crazy, except we don't have any Devil's, or we only had one Devil's Puffball. We, I think, got that Devil's Puffball just a few minutes ago, so that's not bad. And another couple cards here that we don't have two of. Torrential Rain or Thaw. And this one's, of course, damage, whereas this one is boosting and giving Veil. We can go for either. Let's go for Thaw. Another instance of make a case for either, and it's just a rare, so it should be fairly easy to get that. Epic card we can choose from. That could be helpful, for sure. That's... okay, we did already have two of the Wagenbergs, okay. But for this one here, we can go, well, an animated version of the card that we just passed on. Okay, so definitely good thing that we did pass on it. Might opt to take this one here. Alternatives would be Frenzied Dow, moving it to the other row. I have seen people do this against me with Corvo when I'm playing Northern Realms, or say when you have a defender, moving the defender to the other row so that's no longer blocking the cards that you want to be blocking. So it is useful in certain circumstances to do just that type of thing. Otherwise, I don't think I've seen you very often. Damage enemy unit by 1. If you can take someone out with just that 1 damage, which is kind of difficult. Boost self by 5 and gain a shield. I don't know. I mean, yes, sure, if you do manage to make that happen, then that is great, but at the same time, that's an awful lot of setup for something that is... yeah, it does get you up to 9 strength with the shield. True, but still, Geralt of Rivia could immediately destroy you. And feels like there are probably other cards out there with other Deathblow abilities that... well, I mean, they might not be quite as good as that, but I don't know. I suppose, if you do pull it off, then it is maybe the best card here. Maybe Frenzied Dow, though, to be honest, because, yeah, if you can sabotage one of your opponent's cards that needs to be in a certain row and just make it completely useless, then there are certainly some very strong cards that fit into that category. But maybe we do go with the animation just because it is an animated card, and therefore it is technically the rarest. So let's go for this. I think it is probably still the weakest of all those ones there, but it is the rarest. This is our last neutral pack here. See what we get out of this. And nothing special out of those. We actually don't have any Iron Falcon infantry. None at all. Only have one Iron Falcon Troubadour. It seems like I just don't have many Iron Falcons to begin with. So if we have none of these, then I think we basically have to take this. Again, just rare rarity, so if necessary, we could craft more of these if necessary. But, okay, that was our last neutral card. And I think, let's go with, trying to gauge from a timing standpoint, do we have time to get even more packs here? Or do we open this one and finish with this one? Maybe, let's get a few more of the Way of the Witchers. Let's get ourselves up to maybe, we actually have to go back. Get ourselves up to 10 packs for Way of the Witcher, and we'll finish on those, and then we'll call it a night. How's that sound? We certainly have the ore to make it happen. Where are you? You're down here. We have one. Get ourselves up to 10. And I think we will go back to, of course, seeing more of the repeats, because this is a smaller set, but we got a little unlucky with these before. Got a lot more of the high rarity cards once we started going to the faction-specific decks. So I'm hoping that we find ourselves picking up a few more epics, and if we can get at least one legendary out of this, that'd be fantastic, of course, but we'll just have to see. And nothing special here. We'll keep on trying. Okay, there is at least one epic, and it is Northern Realms, so I like the look of that. It could be the card that we already took That it is Cohen, so that is unfortunate in that sense. It is not animated, although the one that we already got was animated, so not a huge loss in that case, but perhaps we would prefer to have gotten a different epic because we do already have that one. Let's see. Anything else here? Not much, no animations, so let's just keep on moving. Mostly just normals and rares here as well. The other thing that I want to do is I want to make a point of going to... Oh, is this animated? That is animated. We do have one animated version of this already, but we'll still take this for our second one. That's a small pickup. But I want to make sure that we go over to our deck creator and just see how many scraps we get out of all these, because we, at least when it comes to the Way of the Witcher cards, are getting a ton of repeats, of course. So we should find ourselves picking up a pretty large sum of those scraps. Of course, most of those repeats are coming from normal and some rare cards, so it won't be creating too many per card. But I think from sheer volume alone, that should help. And here are some more epic cards, and we get to choose from them. So that could be big. See? And, okay. So, I think we've seen both of you before. We obviously took you. I think that actually might have been one that we didn't have a choice on. We just got it. But you were consume all tokens in this row, gain immunity. Whenever you consume one or more units, spawn a drone on this row. Was this the one we were saying would be good with Were-Rat, or is that a different one? Because this does seem like it would be really good with Were-Rat. Otherwise, what is this one? We've not yet seen it. It is Nilfgaard? Put the highest cost card in your opponent's deck to the top of it. Or range, put the lowest cost card in your opponent's deck to the top of it. Huh. I mean, your face is disturbing. That much is definitely true. But what, you deliberately put the highest card at the top of the deck and then you do something to banish the top card with the card formerly known as Witcher Viper, or Viper Witcher? Now Kingslayer, I think? Oh, or steal it. With Cantarella. That's a thought. So you would want to do this, and then on your next turn, follow up with Cantarella. Huh. It would be the highest cost card that you get to steal, and that's... With Cantarella, you are playing, right? You're not spawning. So even if it does have a deploy ability, you're still getting that. Or swap it with Viper Alchemist. Huh. Okay. So it's a devious one. It's part one of a setup, and you need either Cantarella or Viper Alchemist to finish off the maneuver. There's some risk that your opponent does something before you can get the second part to happen. Okay. I see. I was starting to talk myself into this a little bit, because I was thinking with Were-Rat that could be a really interesting combination, but you do have a good point that this does sound like we could mess with our opponent a lot here. Especially with using Assimilate on Nilfgaard. I would think that if you're going Cantarella, you're probably going with Assimilate. And like I said before, that is generally what I've done in the past with Nilfgaard. Yeah. I also don't play many monster games, so I don't have a lot of experience with them either. But I'm just thinking of... I'm trying to picture the combination of this in the same row as Were-Rat. And I think I'd have to see them both next to each other to read the descriptions back to back. But it sounds like that could be a very interesting synergy. but maybe we stick with you. Again, these are epic, which is... I don't love creating epic cards because those are pretty expensive. But if we felt like that was really interesting, then we could potentially do that with something like Itter if we thought that combining Were-Rat plus Itter was really meaningful. Let's take this, though. You talked me into it. I think it can work, for sure. See what else we get, though? Oh, I swear, if we get this right now, then I'm not going to be very happy. Of course, we were on the fence. Okay, we didn't. Oh, but we do already have Colgrim, unfortunately. Okay, it is a great card, of course. But we did take him before. Okay. So, a lucky, epic, unlucky in that it's one that we already had. 3 more of these packs. Oh, okay, but now we're talking. Okay. Finally, breaking out the legendaries for Way of the Witcher. That's what we like to see. And what do we get this time? We have V. We saw V before, I think. And we passed on him. We did take Ivar. Herr Saren. I've not seen this one yet. One of the locations, which is new, has resilience, deploy, spawn, and play. Griffin Witcher Adept. Griffin Witcher Mentor, or Griffin Witcher Ranger. You get to pick. And then order, boosting it in your deck by 3. Huh. If Itter and Were-Rat were together, and Were-Rat would eat Itter, even if Itter has immunity, it would still get eaten, right? Immunity wouldn't stop it from getting eaten. So then that means you're basically just doing all the consumption with Were-Rat, and you no longer have the special immunity from Itter. So in that case, you just have one big Were-Rat that your opponent can take out, whereas you aren't getting that special defensive component from the immunity from Itter. So maybe that combo doesn't work very well in that case. But for this one here, same before, I think you were talking about how V, you can make it happen. I had my doubts because I felt like you need to make it happen so many times before it starts to really pay off for you. And for that reason, I was thinking maybe Herr Saren, but at first glance, I'm feeling a little bit underwhelmed by this. You know, I see the artifact with resilience, and I'm thinking, is this going to be like the scenarios? Is that going to be similar in terms of how powerful it is? But this definitely looks like it's not that big of a deal. I mean, the provision cost is far less, of course, there's that. But it's not like it has multiple rounds of creating other units, unlike the scenarios. Oh, all the locations are available. I've not yet looked at the rewards. All of them are available from them. So for that reason, maybe one ought not to take the locations. Okay. In that case, I would say we definitely ought to take V. So let's do that, and then I'll bump up our legendary number. Okay. And then we have 2 more kegs here. Way of the Witcher. Alright. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. More legendaries to choose from. From the new card set, we'll see what we get. Oh, okay. So 3 cards we've not yet taken. We did see Archgriffin before, and I do believe I said if we see this card in the future, we probably would at least strongly consider taking it. Here it is again, but there are some other really good ones, and I do think I saw the preview for this, and this one is amazing. So, for Scoia'tel, at the end of your turn, move self to the range row and boost random allied unit on this row by 1. In the range row, at the end of your turn, move self to the melee row, and damage a random enemy unit in the opposite row by 1. So you go back and forth between range and melee, and you go back and forth between boosting yourself, or boosting one of your own units, and damaging one of the opposing units. Then, for Adrenaline 3, instead of a random unit, It affects all units in the row, so toward the end, it gets far stronger. Oh, you wasted a bunch of scraps on them? Yeah, that's unfortunate then. But thank you for forewarning me then, because I was close to taking it. Only one you'd buy is maybe the Nilfgaard location. Let's see, Snowdrop. This is the other one that we've not yet seen. Just 2 strength, but Zeal. So you go immediately, order, draw 2 cards, then shuffle 2 cards back to your deck. Whenever you draw a card, boost self by 2. Oh. Okay, so yes, you can have a lot of control over your hand. A lot of control. 2 cards is a ton. And then every time you draw a card, boost self by 2. So from you alone, at least by using your ability, you're boosting yourself up to 6. Which is suddenly, I mean, that's solid already. If you have other sources of drawing cards, then you could get this up pretty high. But I mean, the primary thing is mostly, I think, supposed to be to help control what you have in your hand. So that's not bad either. I think it's really convenient, but I think this is a lot more exciting. It's also only 8 provision costs, so you can fit this into... Is it neutral? It is neutral. So yeah, I would think you could fit this into just about any deck and make this work. At 8 provision costs, that's not so bad. 12 is a tough fit, but I think this is really good. So this is another instance of I really like all these. Remind myself what Arch Griffin does. This is the one where you can carry over the boosts, right? Yeah. So Arch Griffin, probably the most relevant for the types of decks that I usually play. Again, I'd probably need to tweak my Northern Realms decks a little bit in order to make it possible to redraw Arch Griffin, but I do typically play Northern Realms, so for that reason, a really strong Northern Realms card that is based on getting boosted, that is highly desirable. This looks like it's probably the strongest card and is, I would argue, maybe the most exciting, but it is for a faction that I tend not to use as much, or at least when I use it, it's not really to be competitive as much as it's just to get crazy dailies done. So maybe I could switch that around a little bit, and I think it'd be a great way to experiment with the new cards that do so much with the moving your own units and moving your enemies' units as well. And this one is far and away the most versatile, where, like I said, I think you could use it for just about anything. So that's a tough one. You could totally justify any of them. I don't know what I want here. Make a case for any of them. Use any of them in any variety of circumstances. We did get a lot of legendary Northern Realms units earlier. Is that reason not to take Arch Griffin? This is absolutely nuts. I don't know. I feel like this is maybe good enough that I would make an excuse to play more Scoia'tel just because this looks like it is so fun to play with. I think we take this. I think this is the big thing is I think this is the most fun of all these cards is this one here. Arch Griffin probably second, and then Teardrop, or what was her name? Was it Teardrop? Snowdrop. Different. Much happier than Teardrop. Snowdrop, probably the least exciting, but very practical. Okay, this is our last one. And we finish off with Epic, and I think that's fine. That's pretty strong. And did I update our legendary counter after that last one? Not sure that I did, but we've been getting some legendaries in rapid succession here, so I think we're in and around 10 at this point. Then, let's see, for the other ones here, the normal rarities, nothing crazy, of course, but the epics, well, we do have the option to go back to Itter. This is, what, the 3rd time it's shown up, I think, and we've passed on it every other time. But maybe this time. Otherwise, we have triangle within a What? Too many triangles. Boost an ally by its provision cost, or damage an enemy unit by its provision cost. Oh. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Huh. trying to think of... So, obviously, you could use it on a low provision cost unit and just shut off, say, like a low provision cost unit that gets played early. Northern Realms, I'm thinking you might destroy someone's either Temerian Drummer or Trident Infantry. Ones that, if you leave them alone for too long, can get out of hand. Or you could deliberately play it on a high provision cost, high strength unit. I'm thinking things like monsters have a lot of really strong units that you just drop down and they have immediately 9 strength or more. And you could just, on many occasions, I think, just outright delete them. Or you can get rid of things that do other special things that are somewhere in between. So, and then also boosting yourself. Probably do want to boost your bigger units. You could still boost the small ones like the Trident Infantries to get the little bonuses, but that's not really what you want to do with this, I don't think. What? Do not look at the acronym for it? Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Not sure I could do it mentally. I would probably need to look it up. And maybe that's reason enough. Or that's enough of a barrier for me not to do it here. It's a much better rock slide. Yeah, it does seem really good. And we're definitely not going to take Cohen. This might be the 4th time he's shown up. We obviously took him once voluntarily when we had the option of 3 cards in the middle. We got him once randomly. I don't remember if he showed up another time when he was one of the middle cards that we could choose between and we opted not to take him or not. It's at least the 3rd time he's shown up. Maybe the 4th. Oh, I see. The abbreviation. Gotcha. I see. Oh, acronym. Yes, for some reason you said acronym and I was thinking, anagram is what I was thinking of. And I was like, oh, I can't do triangle within a triangle in my head. That's too many characters to figure out what that is for an anagram. Okay. Yeah, this does seem really strong. Eater, again, intrigues me to a certain extent, but I think triangle within a triangle is probably too practical not to take. And that would be our last card, or last pack. We do still have some of the boring normal packs and the 3 premium packs that we've accidentally been taking off from every now and again. So we could do some of those. Let me just double check the time, see how long we've been going for. I suppose we can. We've been going relatively quickly with these last few here. So, I mean, I was thinking that it'd be nice to finish off with Way of the Witcher, and we did in many ways manage to get some really nice cards to finish things off with those Way of the Witcher packs. Though maybe we finish with the 3 premium packs and we hope for a little bit more luck there and getting some nice animated cards. Thank you. Yeah, I think at first, we got a little bit unlucky, particularly with the Way of the Witcher things, where I was a little bit concerned that we didn't get any of the really big cards, or at least got very few of them. But towards the end there, we definitely started to get a lot luckier, and got many more of the epic and certainly legendary cards as well. Let's try zooming through some of these normal packs here. I think that probably going to find that we have lots of repeats here, so we can probably go pretty quickly. And not expecting to find too much that we don't already have, because these are not really targeting any one specific group at all. But as we saw when we were just doing the neutral cards, yeah, there are some, even just simple cards like Cutthroat, that we don't yet have 2 of. So I think we should be able to get those, at least some of those, out of this. And then Epic. Unfortunately, I do have all these already. So not a huge deal as to which one we pick. I mean, pick a Raucous Behemoth, because sure. Don't really use Death Mold. He is, sure, Northern Realms, yes, but even despite that being the case, and despite me primarily being a Northern Realms player, still don't really use him. So don't really feel any allegiance to picking him over a monster card. Nothing special out of that pack. This one here, also nothing out of the ordinary. We'll take the new card, because why not? And then out of this, still nothing nothing special, so take what you want. No high rarity options here, unfortunately. But we actually did need another Iron Falcon Troubadour, so that was good. And Watchmen, we did take our second one today. We only recently got up to the threshold we were looking for there. And then, out of this stuff, again, doesn't make a huge difference. The chance that Scoia'tel card was animated. I did not quite look long enough to see. In which case, probably should have gone for that one, but not entirely sure. No animated cards here, we have them all, so no major things we should or should not take. It felt for me in the first 50 packs or so. Yeah, it was a little painful to start off with. I was like, no, we opened all these packs for the new set, and yet we're not really getting anything that we really want. But fortunately, I think our luck did start to turn around there. And we did ultimately end up walking away with some of the big cards, and that was our second Dryad Grovekeeper. That was good because for some reason, I didn't have any of those cards until today. I didn't even know that card existed until today, strangely enough. Then, okay, now we have more epic cards here. And unfortunately, these are also all cards that I have. That is fairly likely to happen, I think, with these random sets here. So, also none animated. Doesn't really matter which one we take for that reason. Go Pitfall Trap, I guess. It doesn't really matter. And still just normals and rares here. Don't think any animated, not even in this section here. We'll go on to the next pack, and now, okay, now we got the legendaries. See what we get this time around. Okay, oh, some very big ones. Interesting. Vernon Roach is one of the, possibly even the only, disloyal Northern Realms card. Play the top two cards from your deck. That is very intriguing. It is certainly catching my Northern Realms players' attention. And Kayrin also can be extremely good for consuming like crazy on the monsters side. Definitely seen some people put that to good use, and very rare that you find yourself getting a new stratagem. In fact, I think, gosh, I may have only ever seen this happen once before, and I think it was in the middle card here where I had the option of taking it or not taking it, and I opted not to take it. So I think this would be the only new stratagem that I would have if I were to go this route here. Kayrin would work really nice with V. Did we end up taking V? Did we? I forget. Wasn't V the one that kept on showing, or was one of the ones that showed up a few times and we were asking ourselves, do we want to? Do we not want to? We did take it? Ooh. Okay. So I would say Kayrin would be best for synergizing with the cards that we picked up specifically for this round then. But Vernon Roach is probably the most likely to be a card that I would use in a deck that I would realistically play. Although I probably should make a point of making decks specifically to play with the new cards, right? So maybe that's not necessarily a fair assessment. I think Mask of Ouroboros, as interesting as it is to get new stratagem cards, I think is probably still not the choice here. That's my answer then. My eyes did kind of light up when I saw Vernon Roach, not gonna lie. So I think, personally, I do really want to take Roach. And that is absolutely my inner Northern Realms player speaking. If there wasn't Vernon Roach there, then I probably would have taken the Kayrin. But I also do really like Roach as a character, so that also makes it hard for me to pass him up. Okay, and epic cards here. That's not bad. Let's see what we get out of this one. And we do already have each of these, so that probably means we're taking free company. Let's just take a look. Boost all allied bandits by 1. Okay. So if you're doing things like deliberately playing Iron Falcon types of characters, then this could work. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play this card, because I don't know that there are many people who deliberately build decks that are specifically bandits and only bandits, or close to only bandits, but hey, we have the other ones, so I guess we'll take it. Then 8 left here. See if we can pick up any other big cards. Oh, and I don't think I have updated the legendary card counter yet. Oh, we needed a second Torrential Rain, and this is animated, so we'll definitely take this. Oh, we also need another Cleaver's Muscle. We passed on one earlier for, I think it was an animated card, and we were saying, well, you know, we'll find another Cleaver's Muscle eventually, but I think, once again, go for the animated. Let me update the legendary counter, though. Okay. Let's see what we get next. Oh, and we needed a second one of the Tidecloak Ransackers. That's another card that normally you would think you would be able to get one of those fairly easily. Oh, and Spring Equinox. Also one that I needed the second one of. So, yes, sure. That was one that was really good in the previous seasonal event because everyone started with Resilience automatically. And so being able to purify an entire row meant removing Resilience from an entire row. And having only one of these was a little bit of a downside. And was considering crafting a new one myself. But happy to see that did get one the old-fashioned way. And that, oh no, already had 2 Traveling Merchants, okay. Then here, okay, we have fewer Thaws than the other ones. In fact, I think we picked up our second Thaw today. Then, okay, nothing crazy from, oh, well, there's another Spring Equinox, but no high rarity options here. No animated options either, so we'll just take a card that we don't have many of. Okay, still just normal and rare. Oh, we didn't have a second shakedown, so that's good. And we only have 2 Tidecloak Ransackers because we just picked up our second recently, so we'll take that. Then here, anything special? Doesn't look like it. Just take whatever. Then 2 more, including this, for our normal packs. This is the card, Bombardment. The card that worked well with the Siege Elephant that we were considering taking earlier. But like I was saying at the time, I just rarely focus on going with Siege Engines specifically when I am playing Northern Realms, so for that reason, felt like it wasn't that meaningful to specialize in that. And we have all these, so this is not terribly important. Last one of the normal packs. And with it, okay, get our second Iron Falcon Infantry. So if we are going for the bandit-specific deck, then there you go. And none animated. So this decision doesn't really matter. And that means that we are now onto our last 3 packs of the day. And I think these definitely will be our last 3 packs. They are premium packs, so we will have guaranteed animated cards. Let's see what we get out of these. Fingers crossed for some high rarity ones, because yes, we get epic here. I think the other ones that we accidentally opened previously were all just normal and rare rarity, so good to see. We're going to get some animated higher rarity cards here. And unfortunately, we do already have 2 animated versions of this, but these ones we don't, so that's good. Same with the Ice Troll. What do we have for you? Nanake, I do have one. And well, actually, I think you start out with Nanake, right? In the Northern Realm starter pack. But it is animated. Elias, I picked up very recently with a non-animated version. In fact, that might have also been... That might have been a card that I picked up from the daily. Just logging in. Except obviously it was not an animated one, unlike the Skellige one that I got, that I was saying was the animated one that I got. I think I got the Skellige animated one, was the first epic rarity card that I ever got from the dailies, just logging in, and then soon afterward I got Elias. And we have Last Wish, which we passed on previously. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, play one and banish the other. I think, even though I definitely do use Nanake a lot more than any of these other cards, obviously I don't use Last Wish because I don't have it. The fact that we don't have Last Wish leads me to believe that we probably should take it here. So I think we do this. Just so that we have a new card, and either way it was going to be animated. Okay, so here's our second to last of the legendary, or the premium packs. Okay, definitely have animated Archspores. Did not have animated Freya's Blessings. Did have animated Wyverns. Had 1 animated of you. And for you, let's see. We did just recently pick up an animated Torrential Rain. Don't really love the animation on that. It doesn't look very dramatic. So, thinking we go with one of these, especially since we don't have an animated version yet of either of them. I do oftentimes play Northern Realms, yes, but I usually do not use these guys. I feel like let's go with this. Especially because, what with all the new movement synergies on Scoia'tel, if I were to make a new Scoia'tel deck to try to emphasize that, then I think this would definitely be a card that I'd want to add. So getting an animated one of those, now it's a good time to do that. Then I think this will be our last pack. That it is. Last animated pack as well, and unfortunately no high rarity options here. We'll see what we get. Did have plenty of animated versions of you. That'll be our second animated version of that. First one for the Bridge Troll. And we did take an Imperial Diplomacy earlier because I was saying I do like the animation on this one a lot. But then here we have plenty of animated on-crate greatswords. I think this is actually the first card that and only card, perhaps even, that I spent Meteorite Powder in order to animate. Then we can go with either Mahakam Volunteers or Alba Armored Cavalry. I think I do play Armored Cavalry more. I do sometimes use this card when I go with Nilfgaard. I very rarely use Dwarves when I go Scoia'tel. And I don't even think with new Scoia'tel decks, I'll be doing it in the future very often because we're going to be focusing more on the movement stuff, which I think is primarily Elves, not Dwarves. And when you are playing Dwarves, it's usually 100% or close to 100% Dwarves. So I think we go with this. And that will be our last card of the day. So let's just poke our head in the deck creator and see how many scraps we get out of this. I have no idea. I think it's going to be a large amount because we did pick up a lot of repeats, but we'll see what it is. And it is almost 6,000. And a little bit of Meteorite Powder as well. Alright, we do have quite a bit more ore, so I was thinking, why don't we pick up a few more Way the Witcher kegs, and that way, if we load up on, say, 35, I think at this point we've already opened 60 of those kegs, so if we pick up 35 here, and then I've gotten 6 additional kegs from the reward book, then I think that will get us to the point where we will have just over 100 Way of the Witcher kegs. And I think that'll be a good sample size to get a sense for just how many legendaries and other big cards can we pick up. So let us try opening those now. So yeah, I think we've either opened 60 or 61 at this point. I've perhaps lost track a little bit. But even if it's only 60, if we were to say open all these 41 here, then I think that would get us over 100. So let's give this a shot then. Okay, and doesn't look like anything big here. At least not from a rarity standpoint. And nothing animated here, so just take whatever we want. So we'll continue to zoom through if we find that there's nothing new to us. But if there is something new, then we'll definitely look in greater detail. And, of course, there's still the opportunity for us to pick up some animated cards from the ones that we've already seen a few of. So here's Epic. And yes, we will get to choose between those Epic cards, so that's definitely good to see. So what do we have here? This is the other Blindheim. I think this is the one that we've only seen one of, compared to some of the other ones, or the other one that we've seen two of. Definitely not going to take Selective Mutation, because we have seen that and actually taken that on a couple of occasions. Let's see what the deal is with Keldar. I think that's a first. Resupply, spawn a Witcher student in this row. Adrenaline 4, at the end of your turn, spawn a Witcher student in this row. Okay, so this is possibly the best card for spawning these Witcher students. And that is one of the ways in which to convert those students into, what is it, the Griffin School Adept? Is that the one that can transform cards? So this does sound interesting. Seems like that would definitely be a card that you would want to have for sure in that type of deck. Something similar to Kidwani Revenants. Maybe even you can also put Kidwani Revenants in that deck. Not sure if that would work or if they'd kind of get in each other's way. So that does tempt me a lot. And we did see this earlier, and it is somewhat tempting to take. Yes, like I said, definitely not going to take Selective Mutation. But if we're just talking from the likelihood of me actually using this card, like I said before, I absolutely use Northern Realms way more than other factions, and I've never, ever played as Syndicate. So I think the chances of me using this are probably far lower. So let's take this, Keldar, and I mean, we're starting to get more and more of the Epic cards, so I think there's a decent chance that if the other blind item does show up, then we might take it next time around. Okay, nothing here that's animated, and they're all cards we've seen, so carry on. And then here, okay, a few extra rares, yes. Unfortunately, doesn't appear as though any of them are animated either, nor any here, so, yup, just keep on moving. Nothing to see. And could be similar here. See if there are any animations. Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay. So, of course, we hope that we get lucky here and find ourselves picking up more of the legendaries and epics. Because at the beginning, when we were opening up our first round of all of these, then definitely did seem... Oh, hold on. I actually need to take one of these. Again, though, we have all of them and none of them are animated, so just pick one. Doesn't really matter. But we saw it in our first round of opening all of these up that we got a fair bit unlucky and that we didn't get many of the big cards. And that is the risky run, of course. You hope that when you are opening up this many, that you get both maybe lucky at times, unlucky at times. We certainly did find some times when we were opening up several legendaries in a row, which was fantastic. Which perhaps, you know, balances out. Other times when, like this, I mean, this is not a huge dry spell here, but still, I suppose we did get one epic card recently, but no legendaries, at least not yet. Not from this most recent set, at least. Or at least group of cards that we're opening up. And still no animations, so keep on opening up the new ones. Here we go. Okay, so here are more epics. That's certainly good. And with those epics, well, here is the card we were saying we passed on earlier and may opt to take here. We have already taken Were-Rat, so we definitely won't take that. We have seen Berengar already, so this is basically a strong card, but it deletes itself if you don't have any other Witchers. So it is also neutral. You could probably fit it into, or potentially fit it into, any of a number of decks, whereas this is obviously specifically Syndicate. I do think this is probably... This one's a little bit... It's a lot more interesting, to tell you the truth. So I think we do go with Blindheim here. So there you go. We said we'd take it next time we saw it, or be very likely to do that, and we did in fact follow up and do it, so we kept our word. At least on this occasion. Okay, so this is animated. We definitely will take this. And we didn't have any animated versions of it, so good to pick that up for sure. Then here, more just rare rarities and no animations. Okay, so nothing really to choose between there of any import. And then, okay, this one's animated, and Armor Up was one of the cards that, at least at one point, seemed as though we were getting more than anything else. We have, of course, milled several cards here, so the 8 that you see here is not all that indicative of just how many we have actually opened up, but to finally get an animated one, that's certainly a good pickup. And then no animations here. Okay, and yeah, still normal and rares here. Doesn't look like any animations. Okay, but this one is. Oh, in fact, this is as well. Okay, so take your pick as to which one you would like the animation on. We do have one of each already for the animated versions. I think I like this animated card better. That's a pretty elaborate animation there. Whereas this is kind of just like, it wiggles and is disturbing. So let's go for this. Not to mention, Tiebreaker for Northern Realms is perhaps a decent way to look at that. Okay, oh, and yep, Epic in the middle. So we get to choose between those. That's another good pickup here. See what it is. Here's the other Blindheim. And okay, so we do have each of these cards, so I suppose now is finally our opportunity to take Berengar. We've passed on him at least twice, maybe even passed on him 3 times, so to actually get him this time, that's definitely good. Okay, more normals and rares. Actually, we got an extra rare on this pack, so sure. And no animations, so that doesn't really matter there. And for these, again, normals and rares. No animations, so just take your pick. See what we get with the next one. And this time, for a second there, I thought one of these, maybe because they have the darker, purplish card backs, I was like, oh, is that an epic? No, it's not. Not this time, at least. And no animations, so this choice doesn't matter much. We already have all those cards. Okay. And no animations here either, so this one doesn't matter much. Okay, here's an epic, and it is Syndicate, so it may in fact be one of the ones that we just took. We'll have to see. It is. So I think at that point in time, I mean, we saw Roland Blindheim show up several times. We did recently just choose to take him. I don't remember if that was from a set of 3, in which case we might have been able to take a different card instead. Of course, we wouldn't have known that we were going to draw him later. But then for these, doesn't matter. This is definitely still the best card here. Of course, would have been great if it was animated, and then you could say, well, sure, that is still an improvement on the version of the card that we had already. But it's high rarity, and we could either turn one into an animated version of that card, or we could even mill one. And no animations here. Okay. So nothing important there, but okay, now we can choose between the epics. That's nice, for sure. We'll see what we get this time. And yeah, I was going to say, I think at this point we are getting to the point where we have opened up many of the epics, and we may find that we've taken all of them on several occasions now, or at least start to. Selective Mutation is animated, so I think we definitely do take this here, even if we do have, technically speaking, more of that than anything else, but we aren't going to be able to use 2 of an epic card in the deck anyway, so that doesn't matter much. Okay, and more epic cards. Perhaps we will put our theory to the test. Have we now picked up most of the epic cards in this set? Not Itter. We've definitely seen a lot of Cohen. And, oh, we did opt to take this, I think, at a previous choose from 3 option, and we were a little bit on the fence, but we've passed on Itter a bunch of times, so I think, yeah, definitely to finally get this would be good. That's a big epic pickup there. Nothing terribly special out of this pack, at least doesn't seem. Not this time. This time around, again, more of the normals and the rares, though this one is animated. And we only have one animated version of this card already, so we'll definitely take it. Okay, more normals and rares. Any animations? Yes. Okay. This will be our second animated version of this card here, and I think we did pass on taking an animated version of it earlier in order to get a different animated card, so in that case, we did, fortunately, pick the right choice there in order to get as many animated cards as possible. Okay, and a random epic here. It is neutral, so I'm feeling like that could very well be Berengar, because I don't know, or maybe Selective Mutations. Those are the 2 epics that come to mind in this set. It is Berengar, okay. So, of course, we don't have a choice there, so not really anything we can do, but to get a second Berengar, we could, like we were saying earlier with the second epic that we picked up, could either turn one into an animated version, or we could even just mill one of them, get a decent amount of ore out of it, and, or rather, scraps. Here's an epic that we can choose, and again, we will start to put that theory to the test. Are there still epic cards we have not taken? Perhaps, but these are not any of them. So we do already certainly have 2 Rolands, so if we really wanted to just have a mill target, then we could pick this one up here and just turn it directly into scraps. Otherwise, we could get a second of either of these. I mean, in some ways, you could make the case that that actually would be best to take the 3rd Roland, because we wouldn't be able to put 2 Rehens in a deck, or 2 Girds in a deck anyway, so there isn't much benefit to having a second one. But maybe we take one just in case we do, for some reason, feel so inclined as to have a normal version, and also turn one into an animated version as well, and keep those 2 iterations. It's odd, I guess. I don't really see why you'd want to do it. Yeah, let's just take the 3rd Roland. I think the scraps are probably still better. Okay. And yeah, I think that is starting to certainly send the sign that we are running out of new epic cards to pick up, so it is really the legendaries that we're looking for at this stage, which does make it tricky, because of course those are the rarest, so least likely for us to pick them up, and more on the epic neutrals. So again, I'm thinking either Berengar or Selective Mutagens. I'm not sure there are any others, that are epic neutral cards. It is another Berengar. Okay, so now this one will get milled, which is, again, not a terrible thing, because at this point, that might be the primary way in which we are getting additional value out of those epic cards. And nothing animated here, so just move on to the next pack. Okay, at least epics we can choose from this time. That's perhaps a little bit better. And, okay, we do have all these, but this is animated, and that is a pretty sweet animation. Wow. Yeah, I think definitely going to go with it. That is, yeah, especially when it lands like that, that is, I like that one a lot. Definitely taking this one then. So I suppose that's also a way in which we can potentially get better epic cards, would be if we get animated versions of ones that we already have, like that. So that's fine to get cards like that. Okay, out of this, no animated cards here, so nothing new to us. And then, okay, another epic neutral card. So again, I'm thinking either Berengar or Selected Mutagens. Okay, that's actually our first animated Viper Witcher Adept, which is crazy because I think this has been the card that we've drawn or picked up more than any other card. So for that to be our first of the animated versions is odd. It is Selective Mutagens, so that will get milled. And no animations here? Yeah, so just take one, doesn't matter. And this is our 7th to last barrel here, so starting to get near the end. Hopefully we'll find that we can get at least one more legendary card, but of course, no way to know for certain. Fingers crossed, though. Epic here is certainly not bad. See what we get this time around, and again, yes, all cards that we have picked up before. This is the one that we just got the animated version of. So we could get this card here, specifically if we wanted to make a point of just milling it for additional scraps. Whereas these other cards, yeah, they'd sit in our stockpile and would not really be doing anything, collecting dust as we put our original version in any packs that we'd want to have. So I suppose for that reason, why don't we go with triangle within a triangle to at least get some scraps out of it. No animated versions to be a tiebreaker, so that certainly would have been what we'd go with in that case. And speaking of animations, none here. So just carry on. Only a few more packs now. Okay, now we have a Northern Realms epic card. We've seen many Cohens, so I think reasonable probability that it's one of him. That it is. Okay, so now this will get milled. But again, with epic cards, that's not insignificant. That is a lot of scraps we're picking up in that case. So I think we will find that if and when we do go back over to our deck creation screen, we're going to find we are picking up pretty high amount of scraps, even if we haven't necessarily opened up quite as many kegs, I should say, in this specific round. Because, of course, we did go to our deck creation screen a little while ago and cashed in and milled all of the duplicate cards not so long ago. Okay, this is our third to last pack. Okay, this is animated, so that's a good pickup. But no animations here. But okay, a minor pickup in this keg here. Still okay. Yes, epic on that one there. It is, again, neutral. So again, probably either Selective Mutagens or Berengar. Oh, or triangle within a triangle. Okay, but this will also get milled. And then this is animated, and is our first animated card for Cat Witcher Mentor, so yeah, we'll definitely take that. So a decent keg in that case. Rare animated card, and then also a milled, or a copy of an epic card that will get milled. So this is our last one. Unfortunately, oh, actually, tell you what, that last one might have been our last one, because I did have 2 Nilfgaard packs that were lying around, so just looking at this and seeing that everything is Nilfgaard, I'm thinking that's probably not a coincidence. So sure, we'll open this up. But, nothing terribly important here, it doesn't seem. And we can confirm there will be, yeah, just 1 Nilfgaard pack remaining, meaning that that previous one, not surprisingly, was in fact a Nilfgaard pack. Let's open this one up too while we're at it, I suppose. And, okay, just normals and a couple of rares. And, okay, this is animated. So I suppose we definitely could take that here. But no high rarity cards out of that. But we did certainly get a large quantity of epic cards that we already have 2 copies of. So I think if we do head on over here, we'll find that we do get a fair bit of scraps milled out of this. Yeah, in fact, 3,000, a little more than that, is more than half of what we got when we were doing the initial big round of all of the Way of the Witcher, and also after the faction-specific kegs as well. I think we got about 5,700, so to do that in just what was it, 37, 38 kegs maybe, with this most recent round? Yeah, I mean, that's a lot for sure. And that puts us over the 30,000 mark, so nice, okay. And yes, I think all in all, we certainly did pick up some good cards there with all the kegs that we did open. Technically speaking, best card that we got, I suppose, in many ways you could say, was Masquerade Ball. As much as I kind of hate that that's the case, it is arguably the best card in the game, so yeah, sure. And then definitely some other big ones. V, we saw several times, did ultimately opt to take it. And then Wild Boar of the Sea. Yigurn is very big. Ivar, one of the best, possibly the best, I would argue, maybe, of the Way of the Witcher cards that we picked up. Yennefer's Incantation, that's great. Triangle within a Triangle is, well, to get the animated one, yeah, that is fantastic. I love the way that one looks. Then we, as we saw before, got tons of the epic cards as well. Even some from older card sets like Kurt, Van Morleham's Cupbearer, and Lieutenant von Hurst. So yeah, I think all in all, hard to say when you're opening up that many of the cards to say definitively, oh yeah, that was, you know, that was an above average group of cards that we opened up, or that was below average. Because certainly at some points in times it felt like we were getting unlucky where we opened up a bunch and didn't get much in the way of epics or legendaries, but then we had other spells where we would open up, I mean, at one point I think we might have had 3, maybe even 4 packs in a row that had legendary cards in them. And that was obviously fantastic. So once you average all those out, maybe that meant that we were about average. And when you do something of this large of a sample size, opening up what amounted to, I lost track, but over 160 packs once you start counting Way of the Witcher and faction-specific kegs, and even the generic and premium kegs, then I think I'll certainly take it. So there you have it. There's a look at all the cards that we were able to unbox from our 160 plus, however many. Like I said, definitely lost track at this point, but ton of packs there. And so that gives you a sense as to what you can find if you are to open a bunch of Way of the Witcher packs yourself. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the stream. And if you are interested in checking out some more Gwent stuff, I did just come out with a new video for the new seasonal event, what we're looking at right now, the Gwent +1 season. So if you're interested in checking that stuff out, you can see it on YouTube right there. That was my first playthrough on the new seasonal event. Tried to make a custom deck specifically for it, and for the most part, I think it did work out. Definitely some changes I would make now that I've played a few rounds, and certainly picked up many new cards along the way. On Fridays, I will be streaming Witcher 3 Blind. I'm still playing through that, so you can check that on Fridays. I'm also posting the VODs from Witcher 3 on YouTube. Lids Vids, same name there. And then on Saturdays, I am streaming a combination of Path of Exile and Hades. Then on Sundays, I am streaming Pyre, multiplayer Pyre at that, and posting the VODs of that on YouTube. On YouTube, I'm also doing Gwent videos for things like typically just the expansions and any other special things that are coming out, like new arena betas and things like that. But I might do maybe another video or two, depending on if I feel like we can make an interesting deck with some new cards, and after picking up a bunch of them, maybe we can make that happen. So be on the lookout for that as well. And also, occasionally some Among Us videos. That's a bit of a new thing for me, but I've been doing a lot of learning some editing, and so did a bunch of new things to check that one out. So, or to set that one up. So if you are interested in checking that out, I believe I've also set up the link for that too. Let's see. There you go. If you're interested in checking that out, you can see that right there. That is just about it for me. If you haven't done so yet already, you can of course hit the follow button to get a notification for when I go live. I'll also post on Twitter at LidsVids when I go live. You can see it there as well. If you are interested in joining my Discord, you can do that too. I'll post things for when I'm going live there as well, if you'd like to see there. And just doing some general chatting, of course, with people who are playing some of the same types of games as me. So all that stuff, you can check that out. And that will be it for me. So thank you all again for watching, and have a good night. I'll see you next time.